I'll do it.
All right, you'll do it.
Yeah.
We make sure we're private. Cool. Probably should have done that before we started recording.
Give you guys a classic Ben Magnet intro.
Indiana!
Give 'em hell, Indiana Jones!
A long time ago, in the history of adventure filmmaking, one name stands out above the rest: Indiana Jones. And of course, we couldn't let the last, maybe, we'll say, Indiana Jones film come to pass without doing a complete revisitation and rewatch of the original Indiana Jones films and talking about them. So, of course, we're here today on Cine-Files to do that. I am Sparks Woody, and I am joined, of course, by Ryan Eliopoulos.
Part-time.
That's not in the discussion.
I don't know why it's like my favorite.
It's not even
part-time.
It's not even in the movie either. Like the way they cut the movie is a different take of that line. It baffles me every single time.
I remember it forever.
And the voice you just heard right now is Brandon T. McClure. We spare no expense.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, Ben Magnet, who could not muster up an intro for this episode, so I took up the responsibilities in classic Magnet fashion.
You did, and I applaud you. And I will not lie. Watching Temple of Doom last night and getting reacquainted with Indiana Jones really makes me miss my Indiana Jones hat I bought from Disneyland when I was when I graduated or when I promoted from middle school to high school.
This hat, I'm wearing it, Ben.
You bastard! You stole my hat.
It was my background.
Oh, you got me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just
lived here. Audio listeners. I'm sorry, Ben. If you want to say you bought that shit.
No. I was gonna say I just bought it from Disneyland. I missed that shit.
I still have mine from Disneyland.
Nice.
Yeah. Maybe you'll see it on the next time we record one of these. All right. Hi guys. I love Indiana Jones. I'm so excited to be here.
Are you all ready to see Brandon in a way you've never seen him before?
I'm not going to be that bad, I promise.
Not yet.
Well, we haven't. What's so great about this show is that we decided probably a long time ago that if a new installment of a franchise comes out, and we haven't talked about the previous installments, we will talk about all of the previous installments to make up for that mistake. So we are doing that now because no Indiana Jones film has released in the time that we've done the podcast. So it's time.
Sure.
Yeah, there hasn't been an Indiana Jones film since the late 80s. So
yeah, sure. And definitely a bunch of white dudes have sat around our podcast talked about Indiana Jones before.
No,
I'll
never.
say that for sure.
Fresh content.
But we haven't, and that's the important thing.
Untread material here.
No, we did do a fun movie trivia challenge though.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we did. We did do an Indiana Jones movie trivia challenge.
That may or may not have found its way into our YouTube channel in some fashion around this time. So, look around.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the first two only. We're not going to talk about the rest of the franchise. We wisely decided to split these up after doing so many of these. So we're going to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Do y'all remember when we did all the Terminators at once? Ooh, what a mistake.
See, here's the great thing. Here's the great thing about Hollywood and cynicism. We'll get another one in a couple years. So we can just, if we want to, dive deep into the ones that are really good.
Crack those babies back open.
Like Terminator Dark Fate, because that movie doesn't get enough love.
That's true.
We also did the Predator films all in one episode.
Yeah, but there's less meat on those films, I think. Those are just fun movies.
We did that for the Predator. We did that before Prey came out.
Oh my God, dude. Wow.
And Alien we split up, and we did those in continuity order. We did Prometheus and Alien Isolation first,
and because of that was the first time I ever saw Aliens.
Oh right,
yeah. I've never seen
Sometimes the franchises are here to help Ben get caught up on cinema history.
Yeah, they are.
So we're going to be talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, now titled Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So let's start with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's get going. What do we think about this one?
Hey, would you believe this is a good movie? Hey, would you believe 40 years later we're still talking about it?
Hey, would you believe that every time someone says adventure film, this is the first film that pops in my head because this was the adventure film and also probably one of the ways I got really into Egyptology as a kid?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I hear Indiana Jones goes to Egypt, I instantly go, "Hell yeah, we're raiding tombs! Let's go!"
Should watch Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Yes, Sparks.
This movie is brilliant and fun, and I love it. And for the first time ever, I noticed flaws.
Oh yeah.
And like, but in a way where I'm like, oh, look at those flaws. Those are charming flaws. Like, just you guys were so young. Your filmmaking talents were still, you were still figuring everything out. It's okay.
I have, because like, I don't have much new to say about this movie that hasn't been said before. I like this movie a lot. We'll talk about all the great things in it. I have a bunch of trivia that we probably all know, but the people at home don't know. So I'm just going to be throwing out fun trivia facts the whole episode. I love it. Yeah.
The movie is incredible. I really love Indiana Jones, as I mentioned up top. He's one of my favorite, probably my favorite cinematic character. I'd really have to kind of like think about that, but I'm confident to say he's at least one of them. But I really love this movie. I love Marion and Indy. I think they're a great couple. Problematic aspects in their past aside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a great
that
effort.
line where she says, "I was a child."
Yeah, that one.
Hey, don't read the novelization because they go more into it.
Oh boy.
I almost picked up the novelization. Barnes & Noble has a beautiful like leather bound hardcover of like, one of those exclusives with like new art and things like that. And I was like, oh, are these like different Indiana Jones stories? And it's just the novelizations of the 3 movies. And I was like,
at the end of the credits for every movie, it says novelization by whoever the company was. I'm like, oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. That's nice of them.
Yeah.
Sparks, though.
Yeah, what's up?
You said for the first time ever you noticed flaws.
I did.
I feel like that's a nice place to start.
Okay.
So so name one. Do it.
Guys,
name one.
The editing on this movie is actually not that good.
No, it's not. I noticed that last time.
Which is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
This is the first time I really watched it, was like paying attention to that aspect in particular. I was like, wow, this editing's actually kind of bad. Which is pretty surprising. But what an incredible movie.
It's interesting because like this movie is so good. A lot of the reason is because it's a film of its time. Obviously, like this is very much like, Spielberg and Lucas. They're way younger at this point. I think Spielberg had just done Close Encounters.
So he did Jaws, and then he did 1941, which was a flop, and then he did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then he did Raiders. Here's some fun fact I'm going to sprinkle in. His last 2 movies went over budget, and it was over scheduled, and it was a disaster making all those movies. So this movie, he was like, I'm not doing it the same way. I'm doing it cheap. This movie cost $18 million, which if you look at it, this is a great looking movie for considerably low budget. I am not going to do 45 takes. I'm doing a couple takes no matter what. So I hope my actors can get it, because I refuse to be that director that I used to be. Like he deliberately only did a few takes, and luckily we got great stars. But like he was very fast and loose on this movie. And I think the editing is one of the things where like that the editing could have saved it too, as choppy as it is. But like he made this movie very quick, and that just shows how talented he is, that he got a banger out of it. One of the greatest bangers of all time.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to note, because what you just said there, because this would be the way he makes movies from now on, right? Every movie he does, he's under budget, he's early, he's like on it every single time. You hear about it all the time, how Jurassic Park was under budget, how what was the Schindler's List was under budget, things like that were all
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One
later in his career.
Ready Player One.
Okay.
Ready Player One was probably not under budget, but would probably like hit the budget.
The more that time passes, and I think about the fact that Steven Spielberg directed that movie, the more I'm like, that feels like a movie that was just like the whole framework of it was set up, and then they just inserted a director into it. And it happened to be Spielberg.
And
like. It honestly boggles my mind that he made that movie.
It is interesting as hell.
It's still, it boggles my. I love that movie, and it still freaks me out. It's like, holy shit, Spielberg.
You love that movie? You love that movie.
I still really.
He's
like
allowed.
Can you just
as of now, it's the only movie that has a live action Gundam in it. So until the live action Gundam movie comes out, I'll give him that.
You know what?
I
It's
guess
not.
so.
It's no longer the only movie with an American Mechagodzilla.
Look,
Thanks,
I
Godzilla versus Kong.
admit the first time I saw the Lego movie, I was like, what if all these franchises could do this in live action? But I didn't.
Live
It is what it
action?
is.
Live action? Really? Live action?
I mean,
Is Avatar live action?
live action.
Fair point. You got me.
Yeah.
Well done. Lion King 2, live action.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to talk about this a long time. Do they call that an animated movie or is that a live action movie?
It's a live action movie.
It's technically one of their live action reimaginings.
Okay,
that's what they'd label it.
There was one shot. There's one frame of non-digital footage in that movie.
Yep.
That's when the sun comes up, correct?
The tree or whatever.
That's the sun. That's the first frame of the sun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw the pixels. Anyway, you were the pixels in this original Sun in 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I mean, Raiders. Sparks is right. It's really interesting how kind of like this film is as good as it is, despite the flaws that were even probably then they were not necessarily seen as much because of just the way films were made at the time. But go ahead.
What stood out to me this time was just because I it's been a long time since I watched the Jones films this close to each other, and certainly I wasn't as film brained as I am now, having like studied stuff and all that. And I just didn't notice how much more polished Temple of Doom looks.
Oh yeah, dude.
As a film.
Oh yeah.
Like it just is a more polished movie. You can feel the amount of crew and thought and panache into every bit, which isn't to say, sounds like I'm putting Raiders down. It's not to say that Raiders doesn't have a lot of thought and hard work put into it. But it is like, what Ryan was saying, like, made cheaper.
It's a scrappy movie.
Quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels down and dirty and independent in a way that
independent
Temple of Doom does not. Temple of Doom feels like blockbuster filmmaking, and Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of feels like an indie that happened to do incredibly well.
Yeah.
And it's striking how clear that difference was.
Ben, did you want to? You look like you're about to say something.
I think I had a thought, or it was starting a thought, but I forgot about it.
I think I saw that thought form in your head and was just like, Ben, say the thought, and you were like, no. Anyway, yeah. Raiders is such an interesting one because when you look at kind of the scope of it, and it feels like it's a big scope, but then when you kind of like look at this kind of either you or Sparks said, Ryan, scrappy filmmaking that it really was, but a lot of that has to do, I think, with like the script. It's got a very good script from Lawrence Kasdan, who at this point came off of Empire. And he is, so the script really like carries the characters and allows the characters to become incredibly likable with really good chemistry. And we enter Indiana Jones in a fully realized world from the first frame. And I think that really kind of carries the movie through its scrappiness.
Yeah, I love. I mean, it is the template for Tomb Raider, Uncharted, like things that I also grew up on, of like throwing us in instead of having it be at the origin. Like this isn't Indiana Jones's first adventure. This is like his 100th adventure. Mm-hmm. This dude knows what he's doing. He's actually watching these back to back. I didn't watch Raiders totally, but both movies. Indiana Jones is kind of bad at a lot of the things he does. Like he that's what I like about him. He's a very fallible character. Like he's not perfect. Like first they didn't want Harrison Ford for Indiana Jones. Like George Lucas specifically didn't want him because he didn't want to be because he was Han Solo, and he like I don't want him to be like my guy. Like I don't want it to seem like I'm favoring him or anything.
He didn't want
a
Bruce Campbell.
He didn't want a Bruce Campbell. He didn't want like the Johnny Depp, Tim Burton thing, right? Like he's like I want to kind of do my own thing, be separated from every artist I work with. Tom Selleck was casted. There's a screen test you can watch. He's not great. Where Indy,
no, he really isn't. He really is not good.
Harrison Ford is very charming, and even when he's like flawed, he's very likable. Whereas like the screen test with Selleck, he's kind of just like disarming and kind of like scary. Like in scenes where it's very, very different to Harrison Ford, you're like, oh yeah, it just totally doesn't work. So like he had Magnum PI or whatever, and he made like billions. He made millions of dollars. He did that show for so many years. So like he did fine. Everyone was fine, better off. just interesting that like they were anti Harrison Ford, and then he tested for it, and they were like, damn, he's pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of that screen test that you talk about. That's the it's the scene in the bar that they screen tested for, and Selleck has this kind of overbearing dadness about him when it comes to his chemistry with Marion, and that makes that line. That makes that line like I was a child and way creepier.
Yeah.
Ben, you had your finger up this time of thought.
I actually have a thought this time. I guess one of the things I just wanted to touch up on the point we made earlier about how this film is fully realized the second the first frame starts. Yeah. Like, you get past the studio logos, you're in the middle of the jungle, you see a dude in adventure gear ready to go. No explanation, no prologue, no 10,000 years ago an ancient civilization put this sacred treasure and now we have to fight it for reasons. None of that. It's just a dude, a temple, traps. You get past the traps. And also Ryan, your point about how Indiana Jones is flawed as in he's fallible. He's not that good at a lot of things. I kind of like it that he gets punched. He's not Batman. It shows that he's human. It shows that this isn't his first rodeo, but at the same time, he's a person who gets beat up every once in a while.
He's a human. He's not a superhero. And exactly. I love that.
I think that, I mean, if I may gush for a little bit on the opening scene, just on the opening adventure, essentially, that is, in my personal opinion, perfection of any adventure movie. You're constantly curious what's going on. Like when they go in the temple, they say stay out of the light, and he moves it, and the ancient trap with the spikes just comes out. It just makes your heart pump. The famous scene that's your background, where he's trying to weigh the sand with the golden idol. It's everything about
getting. Real quickly about that, have you guys noticed that Alfred Molina is mimicking him? Mm-hmm. He's doing the fingers, and when he cuts back to him, he had done the hand movement as to switch the idol.
I don't think I noticed that, but next time I'll watch it. Just every bit about the first 15-20 minutes of this movie, give or take, to me sums up a perfect adventure story. And then we get into real meat of the bones. We get into who Indiana Jones really is. He's a university professor. But even the fact that he's just a dude who likes to study things, and he's not. Well, I mean, in Temple of Doom, he talks about fortune and glory, but there's a one line where he mentions he's a professor. But seeing him teach a class in Raiders is like, oh shit, this guy does know his stuff. He knows the legends, and I love it so much.
So I want to rewind you real quickly to the opening, because one of the things that strikes me about the opening, and I've held on to this since I was a kid for watching this movie for the first time. We do not know he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really interesting way to open your movie with your hero not knowing. We learn everything we need to know about Indiana Jones in the first 20 minutes. But in the very beginning, we are not sure if he is the bad guy of the movie or the good guy of the movie. And I like that. I think that's really smart.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. There is something to that because he's dirty. He's scrappy. He's got he's been on adventures. He's dirty, right? And then when you meet Belloc. That dude's sharply dressed in the middle of the jungle. And you're like, damn, that dude's good at his job, I bet. He ain't struggling like Indy over here. And just talk about how you learn everything about Indy in the first 20 minutes. That is so true. That's what I love about, Ben, you are right about like that is a perfect, that's a short film just right there about how Indiana Jones operates, how he thinks. He thinks he's smart enough. He waited properly. He didn't. He's not that smart. I love that. You see at the beginning, oh, this dude's not, he doesn't have it all together. I love it. It's just, it's great filmmaking.
Yeah, I know the trope of a lot of adventure movies is they think they get past the traps, but they trigger the traps anyway, and then they find some solution to get through. Even though I know the trap is going to get triggered, I am always happy to see it get triggered, and I'm always happy to see how they get out of that situation. It's just, I just love it when the directors and the actors get creative of how they get out of things. There's a scene in Temple of Doom I'll talk about later, but I just love it how Indiana Jones knows there's traps, but also he screws up. I mean, how many times have people in popular culture homaged the rolling boulder
in
the beginning of Raiders?
You know what's so interesting about that is that we kind of in the thing where like before he screws up, he's kind of like, oh, he heard the gun, so he uses the whip to stop the guy from shooting him in the back. And then when we see him in the temple, he's like, don't get in the light, don't do this, don't do that, don't trigger this trap, don't trigger that trap. He's very on it. He's very much like, and we even see his competitor who got killed because he wasn't smart enough to get through the trap, to miss the trap of the light. And so like he makes it all the way through. He makes it all the way through the diamond, the diamond traps, and then he screws up. And I think that's real. And I think that's really smart because we're learning so much. We're still learning about who this guy is, and we're like, oh, he's a really smart guy. Oh my goodness, he's really intelligent. He can see these traps. He really knows what he's looking for. Oh, but he can still screw up. Mm-hmm. And that's the important part. And that leads to a really iconic action sequence with the boulder, which is freaking phenomenal.
I don't want to mention the ride at Disneyland too much, but every time I see Raiders of the Lost Ark, it harkens me back to the Indiana Jones Adventure theme ride at Disneyland, where even not just the ride itself, but even the queue going inside the attraction, like when you enter the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, and when you're walking in, you're seeing like that hallway with like the sign that says "Don't step on the diamond stones," and then you look up and you see that they put wedges in all the death traps.
Mm-hmm.
Just like stuff like that. I don't know why that every time I watch this and I think about going to the Disneyland ride, it's just like, man, Indiana Jones is freaking awesome.
It's true.
I thought Alfred Molina was Spanish for a long time because of this movie.
Yeah. Hey man,
you'll think a lot of white people are different things in these movies.
Yeah, the 80s was rough.
Real quickly, not to talk about a movie that for a different show, but like real quickly, I thought Catherine Zeta-Jones was Hispanic for a really long time, way longer than I should have.
For a long time, with the way her roles went out. Her agent was like, "I got it, girl. Don't worry."
Yeah, I mean, maybe she's half Hispanic, half Welsh. We don't know.
Crazier things have happened.
Sparks like, I don't think so. But yeah, I think what's so incredible about the opening intro is exactly what we've been saying. It's like, it's a short film. And the movie could end there, but it doesn't. And we're introduced to Belloc, who is, I think, a really effective antithesis to Indiana Jones. That kind of dark reflection that he calls himself. I think he works in that capacity. And a lot of franchises will wait till like the third film to introduce like a dark reflection of your hero. But we get this in the first film to learn more about Indiana. We learn that Indiana could very easily cross the line and become much like Belloc. But he chooses not to because of reasons.
To go on Belloc for a hot second, Ryan said something great earlier about how every time you see Belloc, he's very sharply dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but it's because Belloc is a dirty cheater. Mm-hmm. He always shows up to the jungle wearing the nicest clothes. He lets everyone else do the dirty work. Whereas Indiana Jones, he is the guy who was willing to get his hands dirty. You see him in the first shot. He's sweaty. His shirt's open. He's tired. Even in the scene, and that's your backdrop, you can see the sweat constantly build on his face. It's like he's terrified and he's ready to get shit done. Belloc, he looks nice. He's waving himself with his hat, and he's always joking about how he's one step ahead of Indiana Jones. It's like, you suck. I love how when we first see Belloc and after he takes the idol, and you're just like sitting there going, "You cheating son of a bitch!
Hey,
I hate you."
He got the idol though, didn't he? Look how easy that was for him. Man, he's so good at his job.
No, but seriously, F him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just like the adventurer in me where I see some dude in a suit just come up and just take it out. It was like, well, screw you.
He's a good bad guy.
He's a good bad guy.
I think it's fun that he's French. I wish he was British. I feel like you could get the colonizer taking antiquities narrative stronger if he were British. Well, we were probably being too nice to the British at the time.
We got a British bad guy in the next movie, though, so it's okay.
That's true.
That's okay. They make up for it.
We were probably being too nice to the British at that time. You're right. Well, because this was like this is common knowledge at this point, but this was an idea that Lucas and Spielberg had because they wanted to do a James Bond movie, and they are American and will never get to do a James Bond movie at the time. So they made
try their damnedest with the opening of Temple of Doom. Darn it!
They certainly will.
Oh, yeah, they tried.
Yeah.
And
Real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
I didn't see Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, but just upon the trivia that I looked up, his parents dropped him off at movie theaters, and he would just spend literally all day watching like old school serials. Like they give him some money, and they would just drop him off. I don't know if that's shown in the movie at all. Is it?
It's not.
Damn, that movie's a fake. It's a phony. No, but he just would spend all day at the movies, like watching these types of things. So like as it is, like you grow up loving the things, then you get to recreate or make the version of it that you'd want to. And I'm like, that's really cool, because this is like man, this is like a damn good this is like a timeless movie. This is totally timeless forever.
Yeah, I will just real quick. I will point out, like, The Fabelmans is a long movie, and I think that you get his film obsession and that he's seeing a lot of movies without them necessarily showing you like him going to the theater all the time.
No,
all the time because of like how things will show up. No, for sure. But what I was thinking, because you brought up The Fabelmans, is like thinking about The Fabelmans, and like there's this film he makes for like a Boy Scout troop in The Fabelmans, and where he comes up with a lot of like really low budget ideas to use sand to effectively show like a fight happening and gunshots and all this kind of stuff. And then like you look at Raiders, and I'm like, these are some of those same tricks for sure. Mm-hmm. He's bringing some of those same tricks.
Yeah, Spielberg. This is a nostalgia movie, right? Like it's interesting. It's
for everybody that wasn't us, that was alive at that time. Like this was like their childhood.
40s and 50s Star Wars
being brought into genre just as much as Star Wars was like a send up of like the Flash Gordon stuff. This was a send up of like the adventure films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find that so fascinating, looking back in time and seeing what was essentially what we're doing now with nostalgia traps and of our childhood coming back and kind of populating pop culture. What happened then was a very similar situation in the 80s when this movie came out with things going on in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And this movie is just kind of one of those. But Ryan is correct. Like this movie transcends that and becomes timeless, much like Star Wars does.
Yeah. I feel like there's always a reason, or there's always a lot of homages that directly link to Raiders of the Lost Ark. I had a point. Where was I going with this point? God damn it.
We were all kind of like...
I realized like he also took that from older movies too.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Doing like the Tarantino
but I think, like what I think is valid in Ben's point is that like one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to get a good adventure movie after this, not that it never happens. I would argue that The Mummy, the first two Mummy films are exactly in the same arena of like a good adventure film. So it does happen. But
is Pirates
most of the people
movie? Are those
I would say so.
I'd say
I just don't know what that would actually be, because it's so many things.
I think we think of what I'm thinking of is like the Jungle Explorer adventure film,
sure.
And like Pirates is more the Errol Flynn swashbuckler adventure film. Sure. And like
Jungle Cruise.
Yes, that would be more in the Raiders arena. Okay. But like, you want this explorer adventure, generally like going to an exotic location and looking for something temple-esque, all that kind of stuff. And very rarely will contemporaries go and look at any other inspiration than Indiana Jones. And so Indiana Jones kind of permeates itself throughout all of that genre, because people won't go back the way Indy did to look at other things for source material. They'll only really look to Indiana Jones.
Again, because look at Tomb Raider and Uncharted. Those are both movie franchises. Tomb Raider having good examples, Uncharted having bad examples of like, hey, we're doing the Indiana Jones thing, but in a modern era, and just not as good. Which is, it is a hard thing to balance, but like, I'm so glad we got a new one coming out.
I think what's interesting about that is that you brought up Jungle Cruise, and Jungle Cruise is, I think, a pretty good movie. I think it does suffer a lot, but Jungle Cruise is one of those examples that they do look at other adventure films outside of Indiana Jones. The African Queen I believe is the title,
sure,
which was a major influence on that movie, and they looked at Indiana Jones obviously and African Queen. The one with Kurt Russell, the Diamond something,
Romancing the Stone,
yeah. And so they did look at those other films to build Jungle Cruise, and I think that kind of allows Jungle Cruise to, well, not surpass other adventure films. It does put it above other attempts, I think.
It steps out of Indy's shadow. That's for
sure. Steps out of Indy's shadow. Correct. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. Also, one other thing, because we're talking about like how a bunch of other films inspired Indiana Jones and a bunch of other, or not genres, but essentially like stuff that Spielberg saw. I would also make the argument that while Indiana Jones, people probably put it in the action adventure section, it's an adventure with some action in it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would definitely say that, because obviously you have Pirates of the Caribbean, because we talked about Black Pearl specifically. I would say that's action adventure. There's a lot of action. You go on a little adventure. Yeah, that's rad. I would say Jungle Cruise is an adventure, but Indiana Jones, that's a true adventure. You go to like multiple locales. You go to multiple places looking for multiple things. And even though there's like great action set pieces, I always love I don't know why, but I really like the fight between Indiana Jones and the big German guy, the pilot.
Classic.
Yeah. Classic fight.
I think you're right. Real quickly, Ben, just to kind of reinforce your point. I think you're right. This film operates more as an adventure film than an action film, but it does have really good action set pieces. And that's kind of what always appealed to me, is the kind of adventure first type of storytelling this is.
I'm just processing what they're saying, because I don't know if I agree. I think that it's just as much equal action as it is adventure. I get what you guys mean by like going to all the locations and exploring and stuff, and certainly that's a priority. But like,
action happens at almost every location.
Action isn't just fighting, true. And action can be a lot of other things too. So I like a chase scene counts and like all that kind of stuff. So. There's a lot of action scenes in Indiana Jones.
You know what? Let me rephrase my point. When you say adventure movie, first one that comes to mind is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you say action movie,
not to dwell on this too much, but I think adventure definitely is more like location based. Like going to a lot of locations. Like this is an adventure movie, but like it's got a shit ton of action too.
Yeah.
No, what I was saying wasn't to say there isn't a lot of action, because there is, and they're all great action set pieces that I want to talk about soon. But I deliberately said adventure first, because I believe at the end of the day, this film it puts the adventure before the action. It is meant to be an adventure that we go on with Indiana Jones, both personally and heroically, and the action is secondary to that. That's not to say there is no action in this film. That's not to say that there isn't good action in this film. There's plenty of action. There's lots of action, and it's all good. I just think for me, I just always felt it was adventure first.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the action.
Yeah. All right. Favorite action scene? Go.
Oh, the car chase.
Which one?
The one where Indiana is chasing after Belloc. In the trucks when he has the Ark.
Okay.
Does 50 Nazis melting count as an action scene? Because that's my favorite scene in the movie.
I mean, that's everyone. There's an asterisk on there, because that's everyone's favorite scene in the movie.
Damn good scene.
They had a very good scene. When he shoots the swordsman.
That's not an action scene.
That's
not want to say like the whole scene. If you want to say the whole scene, like the trying to find Marion, the chase, and all that, plus that, sure.
Not only is it not an action scene, that was going to be an action scene that got cut because Harrison Ford was sick.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel bad for that swordsman, because he trained for 3 months, and on the day he was going to do his big movie premiere,
he got shot.
Harrison Ford was sick, so your role got cut, bro. That's so sad for that man.
Yeah,
3 months.
Still iconic though.
Absolutely, for completely different reasons.
Yeah. But yeah, the chase scene in Cairo is great. I love the chase scene where they're trying to get married, and of course the fight in the
bar,
the air base.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, with the big man.
Yeah, where the Nazi gets shredded.
Swiss cheese.
Yeah, that's a good one.
German Gouda, excuse me.
Spark's favorite action scene.
It's probably the fight in the bar.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love real quickly. I love how they use shadows in that bar scene, just all throughout. Obviously there's the iconic shot of Indiana walking into the bar, and we see his silhouette, and then we get it again with the Germans. But like throughout, there's some great visual gags where you see like Indiana is pinned down by the guy, and the Nazi goes, shoot them both, and you just see the shadow of the dude who's about to shoot them, and he gets shot. And you just see the shadow, like, oh,
Like I'll be real. Like my favorite is the chase where he has the truck and he got to it on a horse and everything. Like that's the best action scene of the film. I just wanted to give the bar some love.
I love the bar scene. I watched an interview from set of Harrison Ford. It was like one of the one times he was going to be actually dragged behind a car or whatever. And the interviewer was like, "So Harrison, what does it feel like to be dragged behind a car? What an interesting day on set." And he's just like, "Yeah, I guess one of my many new useless skills I've learned in my career." He's clearly not happy about having to do this. He's just harnessed up like, it's gonna be all day this stupid shit. And I'm like, thanks for doing it though. It looks good. It's not him a lot, but he does it a little bit.
There's this shot in the movie, in that chase scene, when he's got the car, he's in the truck and he's got the Nazi out of there, and he sees the Nazis coming up the side, and he just goes, "Ew." And that killed me. This time I watched, I was like, just like the idea, like these are bugs on a windshield. Ew.
Yeah, it's true. Man, speaking of killing, Harrison Ford kills it. This dude oozes charisma like it's not like, man, from Empire to this, and then like when he became like a big movie star, with like The Fugitive and all these movies, like that dude is really good.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad that for like 25 years he was like, I don't care anymore. But I'm like, yeah, he's back. He's on the TV and he's back in Indiana Jones. He's back. He's 90 or whatever. Like Harrison Ford's got it. Like, holy shit. Like he is so good in these movies, man.
I genuinely wish he could have been the professor more. Whether it's in this movie or a different movie.
Because he's like so kind of like, he's like suave.
He's essentially two different people.
Yeah.
But like the way he performs being the professor is like, oh wow, Harrison, it's cool that you can do this. It's a shame that nobody would ever let you do it after this, really. But okay.
Yeah.
You could be like the kind of charming bookworm.
It's very so he has 2 Jack Ryan movies, Patriot Games, and isn't Clear and Present Danger the
Ranger Games is Ben Affleck.
No, Patriot Games.
Oh, Patriot Games, yes.
Patriot Games, and the other one, I forgot the next one. But I think it's but he kind of plays that professor-esque person, and what I really like about Professor Indiana Jones is how nerdy he is. And Harrison Ford is an attractive man at this time in his life, and he's a bona fide movie star, and he's looking at these girls with all these Google eyes. One of them had written "Love You" on his, and he's baffled by this. He's like, "What? Hold on."
Yeah, he's the worst type of hot guy. He doesn't know how hot he is. So he's like, he's just like, these guys are actually. Why aren't they learning? Why don't they care about all this archaeology?
He knows how hot he is.
No, man,
Maybe not to his students, but when he's charming Marion,
that's a different character.
Or more importantly,
that's his Jekyll.
When he's doing it to Willie, which is before we see him with these students. No, he knows how hot he is.
But he doesn't understand what. But I think what it is he doesn't understand why these students care more about him than learning about archaeology.
That's what I believe it is. I think he's like, why aren't they all just absolutely fascinated by it? Because he is a big dork for archaeology. And I think he doesn't get that, but he knows how hot he is. You're absolutely right, Sparks. I've always wanted him to play the professor more. There's some of my favorite moments. Which is why I was so surprised when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, and we'll talk about that when we do that movie. But it doesn't happen more. He's not the professor very often. He gets fired in that movie.
He's only the professor part-time.
You did it.
That was natural.
You did it. Congratulations, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, you know who else is great? Karen Allen.
Yeah.
Love Karen Allen.
Karen Allen's really great, and like props to them for making this movie the way that they did, because like Willie, no offense, is the character that you expect to be in this movie, and Karen Allen is not. Yes. She is at all times resourceful and operating with her own agency. She's never 100% beholden to Jones.
Yeah.
While she might have to be saved by him at times, it usually comes down to something where he is using his knowledge of the lay of the land, or some skill set that he has as what he does, not just because he's a man,
but even
to
so,
do so.
Even when she gets captured, she is resourceful, and she's.
This is why I was bringing it up, right? Because like she makes her own plan to get out of there in her own way, utilizing skills that we know she has because of how she's introduced in the film, which is a great introduction.
Yeah. Not to talk about the second movie too much, but like Willie is that way on purpose. They weren't trying to do another Mary and Ravenwood. They were doing one-off fun adventure thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's not what you're saying.
But the point is that like when you get to Raiders, because Raiders comes out first.
Yeah.
When you go to the movie, you expect Marion to be a Willie. You expect the damsel.
I don't know. The first time I meet her, I'm like, this definitely isn't Marion.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean before you've gone into the movie. When you are going and you know, like, I'm getting an adventure film, I got Indiana Jones, I've got a girl in it. The trope is for her to be more like Willie, to be the damsel out of place. I'm talking in the genre of the films that had existed before.
I get you.
So this is a part where they kind of go away from the wheel.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, which is why I just don't think it's a problem in the second movie where a lot of people do.
That's not what I meant.
No, I know. I'm just bringing it up.
I just want to reinforce the point of how awesome Marion is, because I just love how even though she gets into a situation and she does get saved by Indiana Jones, she's not there. She's not there to be saved. She's there like, I'm going to do my damnedest to get out of here myself. If I can, cool. If not, no worries. And also, she's not like constantly begging and pleading with her captors. She's being a smartass. She's like, if this was an R rating, there were R rating. If this was an R rated movie back in 1981, she'd be cussing the ever loving hell out of those Nazis. You know what she would.
This movie pushes the PG rating.
It does
quite a bit.
Yes, it does. Sorry, but I absolutely adore Marion, and even going to Willie, because watching or rewatching Temple of Doom for the first time in God knows how many years, Willie and Miriam are night and day.
I love Marion so much. She is my favorite Indiana Jones girl. I think she is the perfect foil for him. Karen Allen is incredible. And paired up with Harrison Ford. The two of them have such good chemistry, and they are the scene when they're in the boat and she's hot-headed and she's trying to help him clean up his wounds, and he's like, oh, you're hurting me. Okay, where does it hurt? Okay, here. And he starts kissing it. It's so sexy, so romantic. She is able to bring some comedy, some classic Spielberg physical comedy, which I quite love. The mirror hitting Indiana Jones in the face, so good.
Just on the note of like him and Marion being romantic, one of my favorite things about this movie is that the first time they kiss on screen is not as how do I want to phrase this? It's not as like lust driven as it usually would be, because it's an "oh thank God you're alive" kiss that Indiana Jones gives.
That's where it's like, well, where doesn't it hurt?
No. This is when he finds her in the tent with the Nazis.
Gotcha.
He thought she died earlier in the movie, and he finds her, and he immediately crushes down to her and pulls down the gag and kisses her because he's just glad she's alive.
Yeah.
And he tells her, "I thought you were dead." And I think that that's so much more emotionally meaningful than what you usually get again. Like usually it is something driven more lustfully, something that it would be more like the scene on the boat, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that the first kiss we see on screen is this, "I'm just so glad you're alive" kiss.
Yeah.
It's just pure emotion.
Right.
What is interesting about what Sparks is saying is that, you want to go back to like, if you go back to what this film started as, which is a James Bond-esque adventure, Bond girls were very much not like Karen Allen. And they were very much this kind of, and most of the romanticism comes from lust when it comes to Bond, especially in this era. And so when you have this character who is falling away from that trope, and you have this kind of building of this kind of romance more than a lust for each other, I think it stands out in really interesting ways.
I think it is one of the most like strong choices that they made with the movie is the emotional range it allows Indiana Jones to have, because I think we deepen our understanding of him as a person, especially like how he cares about other people, because of the path he goes down when he thinks Marion got killed on this adventure, and how that drives him into a rage where he's willing to just die with Belloc in that room before the kids come and save him. And that is kind of motivating a lot of him up to this point, is this feeling like of guilt. I put her in danger kind of thing.
And some time does pass before he does see her again. So
right,
like,
yeah.
So like it's enough time for like, oh yeah, like I didn't forget that you were alive, but like, oh my god, enough time's passed. I didn't think you were alive.
Right.
Like I didn't forget about you. But enough time in the movie passes where it's like, yeah, like it's like the end of a serial. The girl dies. Oh no, come back next week and you'll find out. Yeah.
It's a really strong choice for how the audience. That's a really great acknowledgement, because something we're not talking about that I think about a lot when I watch Indiana Jones is it is based like pulling from those serialized adventure explorer films, but more importantly, it's pulling from radio. It's pulling from the radio stories where you would have Temple of Doom is very much this.
Oh my god, yeah,
like 100% almost to a T. It's one of these like I have these stories on like my computer and stuff. Like it's Captain Friday and his accomplice like Bo Buckley, and like they end up on an island and there's a girl and there's all this kind of stuff, and like here's the adventure. It goes for 10 episodes and has all this kind of stuff, and someone doing volcano sacrifices and like, are there werewolves? We'll never know, and like
volcano
that kind of thing.
Werewolves.
And so it's very much a send up of like that format storytelling, and it does it very, very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could I bet you could find someone who's edited this into like, broke this movie up into like 5, 8, 10 sections of like, what happens next week on Indiana Jones or whatever, and like make them like little serials or whatever.
Yeah, because you're right. Like going back to the serials, like a lot of like the example that a lot of people use is like, oh, we're following a carriage and the carriage careens off a cliff, and find out next week what happens next, and then you come back next week and oh, surprise, they jumped out of the carriage at the last minute.
Yeah.
So like it's that kind of storytelling when like Marion is killed, and the movie wants to, we're hearing Marion until she's put into the truck with a bunch of dynamite. So the movie wants you to believe Marion is still in that basket.
Right.
But it creates enough confusion with the basket chase scene that you're not quite sure, but the movie wants you to believe that Marion is still in that basket. So when she does appear next time, you can be like, oh, we switched the baskets, and you're like, oh, that makes sense because there was a lot of baskets flying around at that
absolutely
point.
Yeah, that monkey Sig Heiling.
I had this on the note, but yeah, so that monkey, that Sig Heil monkey, kills me every time. It's such a funny gag.
Was a lot of trouble. They had to tie a grape to like a stick for him to be like, let me get it. I can't get the grape.
And the Nazi who does it back to him after, and like is so confused, like, I just Sig Heil the monkey.
Hey man.
No, of course, we can't forget John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies is wonderful.
As Sala, right?
Sala, yeah.
Yeah, Sala. And of course, when Indiana Jones is eating the dates and he catches it, goes, bad dates. I know how it ends. Every single time I watch this movie, I always go to the edge of my seat. It's like, don't eat it. And then he catches it, and you see the dead Sig Heil monkey. I'm like,
it's such a cool moment because there's all there. It's one of my favorite scenes of the movie is the date scene, because he's got it in his hand the whole scene. From the after they put he's got it in his hand the whole scene, and every single time he's about to eat it, he's interrupted by something and then he throws it up into the air until Sala catches it. It's such a great, masterful scene of suspense. I love it. What a catch, by the way! Sala's catch is so good.
I got some fun trivia. So, do you know who the original Sala was going to be?
An Egyptian person?
No, unfortunately not. It was going to be Danny DeVito. But Danny DeVito was unfortunately shooting Taxi, and scheduling conflicts happened, so they got John Rhys Davies. Danny DeVito is 4'11". John Rhys Davies is 6'1". They changed the character. Would you believe it?
Oh, I'm surprised.
Not much, but like they just made him like more like a giant man instead of a tiny man.
And I always forget that this is also the same man who plays Gimli.
Yeah,
who's 6'1".
Yeah, he's also not a dwarf. So what's going on, John Rhys Davies? Pick your roles better.
Yeah, you're not Egyptian. You're not a dwarf. What the hell?
Well, there's 2 for 2. I'm just saying. You're not an ant.
But John Rhys Davies. Oh, right. He plays Treebeard.
What? Man.
Yeah, he's the voice of Treebeard.
Oh, you didn't know that? He does dual roles. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
I don't know why he does dual roles, but like he's great.
Every week we learn a little bit more about why Ben is a fake nerd.
Is this hey, you know the Spider-Man trilogy, how it took like 3 movies to get to like the actual Spider-Man origin? Is the Fake Nerd podcast just like Ben's long origin story of like, now I'm a true nerd?
Yes.
Yes.
A 10-year arc.
Now it is.
We had to speed it up. That's why we're doing these franchise
We're doing
discussions.
phase 1 is over. Phase 2, like phase 4, we got to speed that shit up, baby.
Yeah, we're in phase 4 now. We're really moving now.
That's funny.
Okay, guys, I'm
wanna
gonna
see him
leave. Have a good
graduate.
night.
Oh, we're gonna give him a fake nerd diploma at the end of the show.
Mike Stephen King signed it.
Okay. What I wanted to say about something I didn't know about, like the last time I watched Raiders, probably this seems right, is like the stuff that we now are more intimately aware of between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford on the set of Star Wars. I am bringing this up for a reason. I do think that there's an amount of what they say about Marion, I was a child, that kind of thing, that is an allusion to that relationship that happened between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford on the set of Star Wars, because it's not like they weren't aware of it.
Yeah.
I do feel like that kind of ekes its way in a way.
Sure.
Not necessarily to poke holes. And I don't know that for a fact. It's just like
speculation.
Knowing that information about that relationship now is like, I can see where Marion's a little bit translated from like George Lucas' idea of Carrie Fisher and Kazan's too, from being there with like Empire Strikes Back.
Sure, I can totally see that. I had never put the two of those together before.
Yeah. It is one of those, hey man, this came out in the 80s. Like it was just a grosser time. The novelization confirms that she was underage in that relationship, which is a weird thing to put in your novel. But again, 80s, I guess it's okay or whatever.
Well, that just means it was in the first draft of the script.
Talking about the 40s.
Yeah, 80s. Sorry. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Well, so the thing that is so interesting about Marion and Indy's relationship is that they both acknowledge that they kind of, this was a problem. Indy was ashamed of it for so long and left and cut off Abner, who was his mentor, his father figure, for so long.
The book, actually, it's the other way around.
Oh, really?
Abner, because of what Indy did to his daughter, he furthered himself away from him.
Interesting. That's not explicitly clear in the movie.
No, it's not. And I think that's why the novelization, it just confirms how much of a dirtbag Indiana Jones is.
I think it does. I think it also does play a little bit of an angle of like, and this is one of the things where like, because we're going to talk about Temple of Doom today as well. Yeah. Like Temple of Doom does work for me as a prequel overall, because like it feels like a younger, more,
it's only 1 year though,
more rambunctious Indy, to an extent, like one who just hasn't calmed down. I get that it's only a year, but it does still have like this energy of like, he's so much more Indy than he is the professor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's so much more that person
in that zone.
He is like the like thoughtful, mature explorer. There are other aspects of Temple of Doom where I think that does shine through, but like you can see how this is a person who like isn't necessarily proud of all the things he does, but still tries to do good. Yeah, more good than bad. Yes.
Yeah. So just to say just to kind of finish my thought there about so what I think really is interesting and works about Marion and Indiana is because of this kind of shame that he feels about his past. They're so far away from each other, but there was a genuine love there and a connection there, and so rekindling that when she's now over age, ideally, and it works as a love story because like they were in love. It's just that they shouldn't have been at that time.
No, yeah, it is like back in what 81 or whatever. It was the wrong time for us. Type of thing. And again, just like it's just
that's even more a thought in the 40s.
Yeah, and that's just something that's just something that doesn't age well. It's not like the worst thing in the world. Like it wasn't meant to be gross.
Guys, there are still some states in the country that are like arguing that 12-year-olds should be able to consent to marriage. So I mean, like this is still a thing in 2023.
I watched that video. Get out of here. Let's go to Canada.
I'm just pointing out
it's gross
that like that mentality exists in our country today in some pockets. So this is not really a stretch to say like this was an overarching mentality of like this is racy, but not necessarily okay.
But to Brandon's point, like there is real love there. Like it's not it wasn't like a fling. It was like, hey, I met your dad, he trained me, I met you and I fell in love with you. I shouldn't have. 10 years later, hey, what's up?
Yeah. Ben, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to comment on that whole thing because I saw a clip of that video. I'm like, I don't know where in the flying flip flop that is happening, but I do not want to go there. Anyways,
I love that flying
yeah,
flip-flop.
can I talk about a scene that scared the ever living crap out of me as a child, and for the longest time I closed my eyes when it happened.
Yeah,
sure, man. But I mean, I think we talked about the romantic boat kissing scene already, but you go for it.
Ew.
Oh, you didn't have to come from that badly.
Go ahead, Ben.
You get one more, I'm out.
3 strikes, you're out, baby.
I'm kidding. It's the scene when the Ark gets opened and the Nazis all melt.
Sure.
Specifically when the dude with the glasses, when his face literally melts. I mean, as an adult, someone who can appreciate those practical effects. That's amazing. So cool. As a child, traumatizing as all hell.
Yes. Can I say some trivia?
Go for it.
Do it.
So that's not what it originally looked like. This movie originally got a rated R rating because of that final scene. Specifically because that dude's like face literally explodes. And the board was like, there was no way we were letting you put this out. So they obscured it. They added more layers. There's a bunch of flames now in front to obscure it even more.
For Belloc's exploding, yeah.
No, for both, everything. Like they added a bunch to everything.
Yeah.
But like originally it was going to be so much more intense. And the board was like, there's no way we're doing this. Is not a PG movie. This is not for children.
So I would like to just take this moment to just say people should, not necessarily you guys, but if you haven't, I recommend it. Watch the Industrial, the Light and Magic docuseries on Disney Plus. With one of the episodes, they go into this and how they made this effect, and it's awesome.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Great. One of my favorite parts about this section is actually, like, I love the face melting. It's a great effect for our friend in black. However, my favorite facial expression goes to the other Nazi on Belloc's right, who goes from like totally confident, real happy, next shot to like bending his mouth backwards in a way that like feels physically impossible. It's such an impressive face. This man was told it's the most terrified you've ever been in your life, and he committed.
So since we're talking about terrifying scenes, so I love this movie. I love Indiana Jones. However, I'm sure you guys remember I have a deep phobia about snakes. Now, lots of times, if I watch a movie enough times, I can kind of get over my phobia and be able to watch the scene where the snakes are present. That happened with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I eventually was able to watch that movie. Specifically, the basilisk scared me for whatever reason. It triggered that phobia.
It's a giant snake.
Yes.
Yeah. Why would
basically Megalodon for snakes.
Megalosnake.
Megalosnake. And so that has yet to happen for this movie. I still have a really hard time watching that snake scene in the Well of Souls.
Sure, it's like 800 snakes.
Because they're also real.
Yeah.
It's not a giant fake one. It's real snakes.
There's a lot of fucking snakes in that scene.
I'm so sad that the kind of like Blu-ray and up formats have taken away the glass that's in front of Indy's face when he first sees the cobra, which was present in the original cuts. And I was just fun
on that.
I relied on that.
A safety blanket.
I know it's not real. I can see it's not real.
And now they've gotten too good at hiding it. You're like, oh no, Lucas.
And because Indiana Jones, one of the reasons why I like the character is because of that phobia of snakes, because he has the same phobia of mine, and I was like, oh, I have that phobia. I can be an adventure hero. No, I can't. But it's kind of one of those things that endeared me to the character of Indiana, and I love the idea because I'm talking about it just to kind of say like giving him that deep phobia of snakes, and then having him have to think his way through a snake-filled puzzle is a brilliant piece of screenwriting, I think.
Even another scene that, because I don't have a deep fear of phobia of snakes like Brandon does, but I mean, I see snakes, I don't want to mess with it. But what freaked me out as a kid, especially when the snakes would be slithering out of the walls and the room would just get, it's like, hey, it's essentially like a water faucet. It's like, oops, more snakes.
Oh, Ben, we had a wall snake like when we first moved in. That was scary.
I've never.
No, this was a year ago. I think it's gone.
I remember that. I remember you telling me that snake. But I think it's the amount of snakes
Mhm.
that also freaked me out, especially as a kid when I would watch that scene. And like obviously the entire setting in Egypt, I absolutely adore. I love going through to those. I love going to that location. I love exploring it. I love it when Indy finds the location, and it's because in the map room. But every time he sees it, he says the line, and then Sala goes, "Asps, very dangerous. You go first."
Okay, so you brought up asps specifically, and I was waiting to say my piece on it, but like I almost kind of hate that he says asps. Now I'm gonna get weird because I know snake stuff, and like, yo, if a lot of that is asps, you're dead. Like if you go in there, you're dead. I mean, it's not great to be in there with cobras either, but I mean, we could have said cobras, and you could see cobras. There's obviously not a single asp in that room, just for reference, and the reason is because they're too goddamn dangerous. And so to me, I'm a little bit like, yo, like asps, like they're done. You can't. Whatever, it's fine.
Are they also like stupid?
They are snakes that belong there, like cobras, and unlike pretty much every other species of snake you see in that room.
Aren't asps also like stupid aggressive too? Or am I?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Man. That's why I'm saying, like, if it was asp, like, you gotta like get the Nazis over with a flamethrower first before you go down and get the ark.
Literally,
you can't do it. You cannot do it.
Oh
this
god,
is a fun conversation for me.
If I could. Well, you're gonna love this part, Brian. If George Lucas can go back and redo that scene and have one German soldier goes, "Hans, get the Flammenwerfer," and just like Flammenwerfer.
You're right, because it'd be okay if the Nazis now go back and find it and clean out the snakes and then forget that they found it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How does Indiana Jones know to close his eyes when the ark opens?
That's a good question.
He smells it.
No, I have an answer, and it's in a deleted scene. He goes and talks to someone who shows him like a picture, and he's like, "This means this means this, and if the ark opens, your eyes must be sealed." And I got cut from the movie, which is fine, but like he still says it, and every time I'm like, "How do you know?"
Instinct.
He's just that good. Okay. That's actually a very good point.
Again, it's a deleted scene, so it's it's technically. I mean, almost was there.
I mean, I could do this. Yeah. I could do this about a lot of things in the movie, like who untied them.
That's not
even though those guys all died, like that, they're still at a Nazi submarine base. So like, there's other Nazis on the island.
I could believe him getting out of something a lot easier than him knowing what to do during an ancient ritual that no one knows anything about. You know what I mean? And again, it's not a big deal. Also, they took it out of the movie for no good reason.
Also, I could just
let's keep flawing it up, baby.
I could just assume that he already knows it.
Sure.
He just already knows.
Oh yeah,
he could have read about the Ark.
I wish he would have relayed that information to me in some capacity.
We know
he did when he told Marion to shut her.
we know he's a dork. We know he's a dork, and he knows a lot about the Ark of the Covenant.
Sure. And he gets his whole like body jitters and perks up when he hears Tanis. So like he knows about this stuff.
Sure.
I think a lot of the deleted scenes, especially this movie, were probably removed for pacing reasons.
Yeah.
More than anything. But it's kind of like,
it's not an actual big deal. It's just like when you watch a movie enough times, you think about a movie enough times, and like, I guess he could just have that knowledge, but like, it's just one of the things in the movie for me. Like I would have liked to have seen that deleted scene.
No, for sure.
Because like, I don't see any other Ark information being relayed except for right before this thing exactly happens.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just not enough for me. But again, it's not a big deal at all, really.
Yeah. I get you.
When you see a movie enough times, you pick things out.
Yeah.
Why don't the Germans come investigate the map room after they pull Sala away with a rope?
What a crazy Egyptian just standing around the map room.
Standing over there with his rope, hanging down to the map room.
Hey, you've got rope. We need you. Come here. It's so sad because Sala just like tumbles down that hill too. So I hesitate to bring this up because like I do think it's a valuable discussion to have, but it's been had so many times. But it's the reading that Indiana Jones doesn't affect the plot of this film. which for me personally suggests a misunderstanding of what the plot of this film is. The reason why the Ark is called the MacGuffin is not an accident. It's Hitchcock coined the term MacGuffin because it's a useless item that the character that propels the character to go on the journey. It's not the end goal for the character. The end goal is the personal journey that they go on, and
I want to explain because I don't know if everyone knows what you're talking about first about Indiana Jones not affecting the plot. People, there was a big article, I think it was on IO9 or some website, but it was like, if you watch the movie and you take Indiana Jones out of the movie, the Nazis still kill themselves and the day is solved. The Nazis would still have the Ark, more Nazis would come and they know what to do. Like Indiana Jones still stops the Nazis from getting the Ark. The good guys get the Ark. The good guys need to get the Ark. Like that, he does affect the plot.
Right.
It was also, they also used that argument as a joke on the Big Bang Theory.
Ew.
Yeah, they did.
Well, that automatically.
I automatically now wish we didn't even talk about this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did they used it as like an argument point on the Nerd Blackface show? Yeah, I don't think we need to take it seriously.
I specifically didn't want to bring that up, so thanks, Ben.
I just didn't know. That's hilarious.
Honestly, I thought that's where that argument came.
No,
from,
it didn't.
To be perfectly honest,
it did not start there. It is an old argument. It is an old argument, which you can tell because Big Bang Theory did it. Big Bang Theory did it because someone in the writer heard someone say it. And that's why they ended up on Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory is a lot of things, but original is not one of them.
Right. So I'm only saying this because a MacGuffin is because the plot of the movie isn't Indiana Jones goes to get the Ark. It's that the arc of the movie is Indiana Jones's. The plot of the movie is Indiana Jones's arc. He is changed by the journey he goes on. He falls in love with Marion. Marion and Indiana Jones's relationship blossoms because of the journey to get the Ark. The MacGuffin is incidental. That's why that reading is there. And for me, that's why people I believe people oftentimes misread this film to think that they're smarter than it, just to want to pretend to be.
Just just to comment on it, like if that's going to be your argument point, don't watch the movie. Clearly, you don't want to.
I mean,
yeah, okay, sure. Then there's no movie. What are you doing? Get out of here.
Go ahead.
I hope what I'm about to say also reinforces your point. But with a film like with Raiders of the Lost Ark, I also feel like the journey is the destination in a way.
Yes.
Yes, they're trying to go get the Ark. They're trying to get the Ark out of the Nazi hands. But all the stuff they go through along the way, including the opening scene, leads them to what happened. And yet, even though they leave with the Ark and the government seals it away in a certain place, which we'll mention in the fourth film, they don't get to use it because they know how dangerous it is. But but like you said, Indiana does grow throughout the film, and I think that's more valuable than fortune and glory.
You look at all these films, and all these films are structured in a way that they came up with the arc for Indiana, and then they came up with the MacGuffin that he was going after. And that's especially true in The Last Crusade, which we'll get to. But I think that's one of this film's strengths. It takes the idea of a MacGuffin and creates an interesting lore around it, something that's from history, and creates a fun historical adventure for us to go on. But as Ben said, the journey for Indiana Jones is more important than the arc.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is so good about this movie. That's why I think this movie excels where it does.
Yeah, it has good characters.
Yeah. And it goes back to Kasdan's script, which I think is incredibly strong.
And good performers. It's both. Our Nazis are shitty Nazis, but like fun to watch characters because the performers are so good.
Again, hey, to bring up the Tom Selleck of it all, like a good script also, like you need the good performers, because a great script with a different actor comes off as like completely like, why are you so angry, bro?
Yeah, and there's great humor in this movie. The Sparks talked about the great performers of even the Nazis, like their main Nazi guy, the guy with the glasses. I forget his name now. But when he takes out the thing and there's like this nunchuck looking.
It's the best bit in the movie.
And it has the nunchuck thing, and he's just like, and Belloc and Marion are really scared of what's about to happen next. It just makes a hanger.
Love it. I love it.
It's like right on the line of like a airplane level joke.
Yes.
Like it's right there. It's right on the line of Leslie Nielsen would do it.
You know what it reminds me of? I think it's The Last Jedi, where you think a plane is landing, but it's just an iron.
It's the iron.
It's the iron, and I'm like, oh, that's really that's almost like parody.
Yeah. It's like right there. Like we're kissing the line of parody.
It's
right
very
there.
good. It's very good.
It's great.
Okay, let's see here. I think I'm kind of
Mel
ready.
Brooks wishes he had come up with.
Yeah.
I think I'm about ready to move on to the next film.
I think everything around the map room is excellent, including how they have to figure out that they only have one side, and if you have both sides, is how you know the right height, and they're digging in the wrong place. All that.
Yeah.
And then
I like
him going in there and measuring out and everything. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm your goddamn partner. Love that bit.
Yeah. Marion, excellent.
Oh, we're introduced to her out drinking German folk.
I don't think.
It's a great intro.
She's an
right, like as we were alluding to earlier, like
lady.
Using her skills that we see her introduced with at the beginning of the film to be resourceful against Belloc later, because she can hold her liquor.
Yep.
Very cool.
I got a fun fact real quick about the wedding dress, because initially it was just like a much grosser scene of just like, you're just going to wear a wedding dress because I'm a bad guy. But both Belloc and Karen Allen were like, can we do something different? Because the scene isn't really working. And they workshopped that whole scene of them playing, doing stuff together and all that. Like a lot of that, their whole scene in that tent was basically like improvised from what it was originally going to be. And I'm like, hell yeah. I love that Steven Spielberg was like, sure, you guys can just make the scene better. I don't care. Love it.
I want to say real quickly, my last note that I have is that the shot when Indy and the other diggers are digging over the Well of Souls, and it's just the sunset over the backdrop, and we just see the silhouettes, and Indy puts on the hat.
Mm-hmm.
Cinema.
Yeah, for sure. I have a poster of that somewhere.
Excellent.
I want to shout out real quick. I'm gonna find the name of this person. Maybe I will.
Okay,
Douglas Slocum, who's cinematographer. Part of the reason this film is successful is also its cinematography. That's a decent chunk of change, considering it's not the editing, friends. No offense to the editor. It's not the editing. But the cinematography, the way that specifically like this film constantly plays with shadow and silhouette, is very key to what makes this film have the tone that it does. I think this one in particular, the cinematography stands apart even from Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. Not to say that it's bad there. There's something specific about what they're doing here.
Sure. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and the other thing is this franchise is known for excellent... well, this film had two editors. Sorry, it's right here. It's Michael Kahn and it's George Lucas. So George Lucas was partially responsible for the editing of this movie. So what are you going to do? Anyway.
Have you guys heard of this guy named, like, I think his name's like James Williams? John Williams?
We haven't even mentioned the music yet.
Hey, yeah, it's one of the greatest scores of all time. The theme song lives in my brain. Yeah, like.
Not only that, we have automated robots at work, and they sing and they play music to let you to spatial awareness. One of the songs that they play is the Indiana Jones theme song. I am not joking.
That's cool.
Robots.
I really the sound effects are so interesting in this film. When you watch like Star Wars back to back, and when you watch Star Wars back to back, and you hear a lot of the same sound effects, or at least similar ones. I love the sound design of this movie so much. The punching sound effects live in my head rent free for all time.
Crunchy.
I love them. I love them to death.
Sure.
And the obviously John Williams score is incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about the score. I won't get into it too much here. John Williams' score is amazing. Brandon and I are doing a show called The Real Score. We'll be talking about the Indiana Jones trilogy, and then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and then Dial of Destiny from June through August. So, look for those. That'll happen there. But you're right. Like, the score is also instrumental to this film. In fact, because you brought it up, I think it's a really impressive choice, and it always stands out to me when I watch the film again and again. That Indy's face reveal does not have any amount of the Indy theme under it, not even like a slight subtle piano version of it. it's silent, because it feels like the kind of moment where nowadays that's when you'd get it.
Yeah.
But because it was the first film, so he's not established.
Keeping him in the shadows, yeah.
But I think it's better that it doesn't happen there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one other thing I was gonna say, and this carries over to Temple of Doom, I think it's just the truth of at least the first 3 films in the franchise. Our dead body reveals are always good.
Oh yeah,
they're always fun. It's always fun when a good old dead body gets revealed, and you get like the shock sting and the scream.
Yeah.
And like all kinds of, they're having all kinds of fun with different levels of corpseization and like how fresh is it? How can we bring a snake out of its mouth?
How juicy is it?
Yeah.
All right, so shall we move into Temple of Doom?
Temple of Doom.
Oh, let's rate. We rated the Scream movies. Do we want to rate this one?
Sure. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Ryan, 10 out of 10. I'm gonna say a 9 out of 10. Excellent movie. Love it so much. So let's move into Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom, directed by Steven Spielberg once again. This time not written by Lawrence Kasdan, however. This was written by, I have it here, Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz, who would go on to do Howard the Duck after this movie, 2 years after this movie.
Howard, what a movie.
The Willard is the director of Howard the Duck also, interestingly enough. So Temple of Doom. What do we think about this one, Ben? This, you know what, I want to actually throw that one to you, because this is your first time seeing it in quite some time.
Oh God, yeah, this has been well over 15, maybe even I would say 15 years, or close to 20 years since I last seen it. Because when I first saw Temple of Doom is when I bought my, Ryan, you know this, my old DVD full screen set of the original trilogy, which I got when I was in like, I don't know, I was maybe 12 or in middle school, maybe. It's been a long time.
It looked awful.
It looked god awful. I am Sparks. Thank you. Thousands of blessings to you for giving me the Blu-ray set that I now have in my possession.
4K, sir. You have a
4K even set. Better. The 4K set.
4K copies.
4K looks very good. Indiana Jones 4K looks.
You see
very,
every
very good.
piece of stubble on that man's face.
Yeah, it looks so much better now, and part of me kind of wants to get rid of my old DVD copies because I don't need them anymore. I have the 4Ks. But anyways, that's beside the point. Yes, it's been a very long time. I've never seen Temple of Doom. I didn't know there was any other Indiana Jones movies outside of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the film, the ride at Disneyland. And then of course, there's 3 more movies. Hell yeah. And I didn't really enjoy Temple of Doom the first time I saw it. I was very confused because I was like, where the hell's Marion? Who's this short round kid? Why is this lady constantly screaming indie? That just annoys the ever-living crap out of me. I didn't really like the adventure all that much. We were essentially just stuck in one area. I mean, we went to different places, of course, but we were mostly just stuck in this corner of India, whereas going from Raiders, we're in the jungle, we're in Egypt, we go to the Himalayan mountains for a hot second to go pick up Marion. There's like all these grand locales, whereas this one's just like you're stuck. But on a rewatch years later, I obviously I don't enjoy it as much as Raiders, but I was a little harsh on it but now I still say it's a damn solid movie, and it just feels really, really good to see this film and think to myself, Ki-Hei Kwan is a fucking Oscar winner. Go get it.
Yo, let me tell you, watching the Indiana Jones movies this week and then also watching Everything Everywhere all at once, I'm like, man, that guy's like the same person. He acts like the same, like 40 years later. What an incredible dude. I love it. It's so great. I love Temple of Doom. I also like, I remember from an early age, this was one of the ones that like people didn't like as much before Crystal Skull. So it was just a 3. Like people really shit on Temple of Doom in a way that like I just don't think it deserves whatsoever. Yeah, it's like the weakest of the 3, but that's like the worst John Wick movie still being a better action movie than most other movies. Like Temple of Doom's awesome. I love it.
I would still say it's still the weakest of the original 3, but that still doesn't mean it's a bad movie.
No,
not by
and we're talking like Scream 3 here, where like I don't even think they're apples to oranges.
Yeah.
I'm not talking like the quality level or anything, but like it's the same situation where like Scream 3 is not a bad movie.
No,
Scream 3 is just the worst of the 3 in the original trilogy. That's like still miles above like what we would actually consider woof.
Yeah, I think like no, this is not a better movie, but there are so many things I like more about this movie. Like when like for me, this like talking about adventure, like this is my perfect adventure movie. I think being stuck and trapped in a place with a bunch of like zombie men who are sacrificing people is an incredible like one shot. I love it. I love how dark it is. I love I love that there's just dudes ripping hearts out. Yeah, Willie is annoying, but like now I'm an adult, like she is designed to be the anti-Marion on purpose.
Right.
Like on purpose. And Indiana Jones does not like her, but she is charming and she does have her ways to woo him over.
I will say I have definitely flipped on Willie. I mean, I was watching this with my fiance last night, and we were also kind of like talking. I was even telling her, like when I first saw the movie, she was constantly yelling for Indy and annoyed me. But now the more I stew and think about it, it's like you have Marion who her dad was an adventurer, her dad's gone through stuff, and Willie is a singer. She was obviously not meant to do any of this. This is a completely fish out of water story for her, and the more I think about it, it works. Yeah. It truly does work. Like, but even though she's pampered, there are parts of it where she just does not give a damn, and I love it. I love her for that. Like when they're at the campfire, the first campfire scene, and she thinks the snake is the trunk of the elephant, and she just chucks it, and Eddie's like snake, 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 and she's just like, I hate that elephant, and he's like, I'm not gonna say a damn thing.
Yeah.
Sparks, your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Temple of Doom. Like we said, it can be bottom of the three. It's still not a trash film by any means. I really like Short Round. I like Short Round so much that I question why they never brought him back.
Yeah.
I understand that there's not a lot of movies or opportunity to have brought him back, but I'm like, it's weird that there isn't like some acknowledgement of him in Last Crusade, considering like, how important he at least thinks he is to Indy.
Yeah.
Or at least how Indy seems to treat him in this movie. And then you get to Raiders and Last Crusade, and it's like, where's Short Round? And it's like, so it is weird that you even get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and there's not even like a casual mention of like how Short Round's doing, because there's this idea like Indy's the only person looking out for him now. So like, what did he do with him?
He left him in that village.
There's a real question there, and so I'm like, okay, sure.
It's an interesting thing about making it a prequel.
Yeah. But he's great, right?
Yeah.
Like he's awesome. Well, it would be the same, like, question, like even if this took place, like even if you interpret this as like post Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's still like you get to Last Crusade, you still get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and you're still like, where's Short Round? Like, why are we not acknowledging what happened to Short Round?
Erasure.
It's a little odd, I think. I think like Willie can come and go, and that's not as big a deal, but like Short Round, like specifically getting into the point, I'm jumping into stuff in the film now, but like getting to the point where Short Round like brings him out of the ooze like trance that he's in by saying, Indy, I love you, and injects him, and because Ke Huy Quan was always a good actor, it's very emotional, and so it's like the fact that bit happens, and it's like, and then we never talk about Short Round again, and I'm like, okay.
It kind of bums me out because as the film is, I assume, is done filming, and it's probably not going to happen, because even Ke Huy Quan has said in interviews he hasn't seen Harrison Ford since they went to D23.
Yeah.
Part of me now, after seeing this movie, and now that Ke Huy Quan's star is rising with Thanks to Everything Everywhere All at Once, part of me is like, man, I want some sort of epilogue for Short Round. Maybe he became a professor as well. He's teaching at the same university. He sees Indy, and they catch up every once in a while. Part of me really wants that. I know I'm not going to get it,
sure,
but at the same time, I don't want to say hashtag justice for Short Round. But you're absolutely right, Sparks. Not knowing now, with my knowledge now, that Temple of Doom is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, if I were to watch this in chronological order, I'm like, what happened to Short Round? Because as you say, Indy cares about Short Round. I love the origin story. It's a very Batman, Jason Todd-esque of meeting where he tried to pickpocket Indiana Jones. He's like, no, you don't. And instead of giving him to the authorities, he's like, okay, what happened? And he learns the story. He's like, no, I will watch over you. I'll take care of you. And he's never seen or heard from again. And now that bums me out.
The thing is, like, he's kind of set up in this movie to be like a perfect partner to Indy and a perfect like parallel young version of him. They have a literal shot where like they're both beating on bad guys at the exact same time in the exact same way. And it's like, yeah, it is just weird. It's weird like putting aside his recent like rise to being considered relevant again and his success and everything, like Lucasfilm should have thought of him regardless of that. Like the fact that it never came up before is kind of sad. For how the character is given to us in this film. And I have to wonder if some amount of it is just the backlash, as Ryan was saying. Before Crystal Skull came out, everybody shit on Temple of Doom. And so they just decided to leave Short Round behind. And I'm like, that kind of sucks.
I want to hear Brandon's thoughts, but I don't think it's Short Round. I think it's the movie. It's the movie. It's like, it is the middle child, and just like his great performance can't outshine it because he's not Harrison Ford. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why when we heard the rumors that they were going to do an Abner Ravenwood series on Disney Plus, I was like, just do a Short Round series. Like, he's there. He's a character that people want to see again. So I'm not as hot on this film as you guys are, and I'm really happy to see that you guys are hot on this film. I think that's incredible. But there's a lot of this film that still, in the year of our Lord 2023, does not work for me, and most of it is Willie. I get what I get. I heard you saying, you know, she's deliberately the anti-Marion. I'm not even going to compare her to Marion. I just don't think she works in this movie at all. And I think that if you take her out of the movie, it's actually a lot stronger, because I really, 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 and I've always loved this, I really, really love the relationship between Short Round and Indy. I think that stuff is incredible. We see a side of Indiana Jones we don't see. This kind of vulnerable, when they're playing poker, it's one of my favorite moments in the movie. I love their relationship, and I have always loved their relationship. And I think that that's where this movie excels. And then Willie yells some things, and I'm just like, she doesn't work for me at all.
This isn't me wanting to change your mind, and I just want to say that up front, because that's not what I'm here to do. But I am going to say, like, what stood out to me in watching it this viewing is that Willie's presence is there to accentuate the commonality between Short Round and Indy, rather than only rely on the two of them being together to establish it. Because just like you said with that poker scene, it's the fact that both of them are like, don't give a single shit about the fact that she's screaming about all the different animals that are there. They are simpatical, similar spirits with each other. They are of the same cloth. And Willie is not. And she is there to be contrast to the two of them. And I think that aspect of it really works as this extra voice in the room that shows the commonality between Short Round and Indy. Whereas if you are just with the two of them, they're not allowed to be the same person as much, because it's just the two of them.
I just think when it comes to the writing of when it comes to the writing of Willie, as intentional as it is, she's not. I don't believe she is well written, and I don't believe that the actress is very good. I think there is a version of Willie that does work, and whatever version of this movie, whatever version of her is in this movie, for me, doesn't.
Sure,
I agree with that.
My favorite, this movie has my favorite trap sequence, and it does involve Willie saving them. And that sequence wouldn't exist unless Willie had to be the one to save them.
That was actually the same trap sequence I was talking about earlier during our talk about Raiders. But yeah, you go for it.
No, that just I think the design, the look. I feel like I've seen this movie not as much as Raiders, but I've seen this movie a lot. We're like, I know the dude's gonna make it, but like that trap looks tense. Really dangerous, and like the spikes pop out with skulls on them.
It keeps bad,
getting worse,
and it keeps getting worse. Yeah, and like stacked on, and then
they get saved, and then they get trapped again.
And then like using Willie to the comedy of what the film knows Willie is there for.
Yeah,
they're trapped, and they know Willie's the only person that can get them out.
And it has
shit.
Like I don't think James Bond has ever been more in fear of his life than he has in this moment right now. Did I say James Bond?
Yes, you did.
I sure did. Indiana Jones has never been more afraid than that moment.
But you're right. James Bond would be too.
Yeah. Wow. It's just a James Bond sequence, but without spies.
Could you imagine James Bond in a death trap like this, and someone like Willie has to get about the composure? Picture every different version of Bond having to play that scene.
Of Craig,
we are going to die.
It's that line, because like, he thinks he's going to. He's not convinced Willie will save him. Mm-hmm. So he's just like, we are going to die. Frowny face. I love it. It is like, I think, the most tense trap scene in any of these movies. And then the Short Round, I'll let you talk about it real quick, but like the Short Round sitting on the back, like, you told me to sit there. You told me to do it. He's like, yes, sorry. Like, I love it. That is like, that is like the best encapsulation of like what I love about these kinds of movies.
Sure.
I also have to say I love it when Short Round he triggers the trap. Like he steps on the lever and the door closes and he's like Ugh. And then of course he says lean over there. He's like, I did what you said. Why are you mad? And then when they finally get out and Willie triggers the trap again, he's like, nah. I love it how he points all the blame to Willie. And he's like, it not me, dude. Point her. And also the I don't know if I can't remember if there was one in Raiders. I'm pretty sure there is because I feel like every Indiana Jones movie has a scene where he gets out of a trap room and a door or something's falling and he has to reach in and grab his hat.
It's in Raiders, it's the beginning. It's the beginning when the temple is collapsing and it's his whip.
Yep.
But in this one, it's his hat.
Next one, it's his entire jacket.
The whole jacket flies off.
And then it's a whole.
But yeah, I love that trap sequence because Indy and Short Round are trying to scream at Willie, and Willie is up, and Willie's afraid of bugs, and of course, the only way to get it is go put her hand into a thing of bugs.
I can't do it.
And now, my dislike of Willie, by the way, in no way diminishes any of the comedy beats that you're talking about. I do find a lot of this movie very funny. That's why I wanted to be very specific that I do think there's a version of Willie that does work. It's just the whole picture of Willie that they present in this movie doesn't, for me at least. But I want to actually go into something that I thought was incredibly funny this latest time I was watching this. I wonder if you guys will find this funny. And it's the opening dance number when she's singing the Chinese version of Anything Goes. And she's singing and then she goes through the mouth and then there's this big dance number and on this big stage and then she comes back out and I've wondered to myself, who saw that dance sequence? Because that stage isn't back there.
We thought the exact same thing.
Yeah,
like
right?
the whole time.
Genuinely, when watching it this time, that was the moment where I was like, Spielberg always wanted to direct a musical.
Yeah.
This is a mess. Like, as far as like picturing that it's on a stage for an audience, I'm like, this makes no damn sense.
Because she walks back out and like you see the stage, you see these stairs behind it, and it's not as big as what we just saw. And I'm like, who saw that performance?
Right. Yeah.
I
noticed it too. I was like, what is this? And also very weird. Like, honestly, in hindsight, super weird to throw a Mandarin version of Anything Goes at your audience as an opening number of this movie. Just really interesting choice.
All right, so another little fun fact: while she was singing it, I didn't ask her directly, but she mentioned, she looked at me. She's like, I can't understand what she's saying. I was like, wasn't gonna ask, but I was wondering. And
this is your fiance.
This is my fiance. Yeah.
You just didn't say anybody. So
yeah, you just kept saying she in the same sentence interchangeably with talking about Willie. So we were like, okay.
Sorry, she being my fiance, who does speak Mandarin, had no idea what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Had no clue. So I'm like, okay then.
Yeah.
Womp
womp.
Speaking of the opening, though, I think the opening is awesome. The James Bond homage that they're trying to pitch. The sequence when it's Lau and Indy moving the stuff around the table and that's just one shot as following it is awesome. I thought I really thought that was really great.
Can I ask you guys, like, how do you feel about Indiana Jones holding a fork up to Willie?
I know he's not going to actually hurt her, so I don't care.
I do too, but like
he's a dirtbag. But like a good dirtbag.
Yeah.
He's like Han Solo. Like Han Solo will shoot a dude if he needs to, but like he's not going to actually hurt her.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it, if I'm being honest.
I like my dirtbag Indiana Jones. I like him being more rough and grumble, which he is in this movie. So like this is personally I don't mind it. He can be a little rough and tumble.
I don't think I ever really thought about it, Sparks. I'll be honest. And that's not to say that I'm curious. I want you to go further in that thought though. Because like, this film is not telegraphed that this is a prequel outside of how Indiana Jones acts, really. And so if you missed the 1935 bit and you didn't remember that 1936 was the last film, then you would probably miss that and wonder, like, well, why is Indiana doing this? This isn't the Indiana Jones I met in the last movie.
That was me when I first saw this movie years ago.
Sure, yeah, that was Ben. So do you have anything more you want to add on that? I'm curious. I want to hear it.
I'm not like Ryan. I prefer my Indiana Jones a little bit further removed from Han Solo. I think that there are lines to me as a character that Indy wouldn't cross. And I guess if I'm looking at Indiana Jones as he is portrayed in Raiders, Last Crusade, even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the rest of this movie, that doesn't feel like a character beat I feel like matches the rest of him in the rest of the movies. Because I don't think he ever does anything on this line ever again. Which is why I'm a little like, okay, like there's the blow up the Ark bit, but that's not the same as what he's doing here.
If I may, Sparks, because when I was watching this last night, I interpreted it as Indy holding the fork up, essentially turning Willie into leverage, because he sees that Willie and Lau have a thing, and because he knows Lau is a gangster, he knows he's a criminal, so he's like, okay, if this guy's not gonna give him what I want, I'm gonna threaten her, obviously not hurt her, but threaten her and use her as like some surprise leverage so the deal goes over smoothly.
Yeah, I know why he's doing it. I'm saying that I don't feel like Indy in the other parts of the other films or this one ever feels like a person who would even bluff about injuring someone who wasn't at least in on what he's doing. And that's where I'm like, doesn't totally feel like Indy to me in that move compared to everything else, and feels more like a contrived way to force Willie into his story. That's me. That's how it feels to me. It's totally fine if it doesn't feel that way to anybody else.
I get it.
Yeah, that is a good read. I just like he doesn't know if she could be on it too. Like she could be just as bad. Like she's working at this club. Like she doesn't I don't know.
Sparks, it's so interesting. I never really thought about that because I don't watch Temple of Doom as often as I'd watch the other ones. I'll put it. It's not like I avoid it like Ben did for 15, 20 years. But like it's not the one I go back to quite frequently. And I just don't think I ever thought about it. But I think you're right, Sparks. Like it in this film specifically, if you just take this film, it is strangely out of character. I won't say it's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary beat, but it is a little strange. It is a little strangely out of character. I would back you up on that one.
Right. I think it's all those stranger to me when like his leverage is already in the room, which is the other guy posing as the waiter with the gun. So it's even more unnecessary for him to do this.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a weird beat to me that again it just feels like it's there to put Willie in the story more, rather than it feels like it actually contributes to who Indy is as a character, because again I feel like he comes across in the other parts of the franchise as someone who has slightly more clear lines on what he will and won't do, and this feels like one of those things that I just don't recall ever seeing him doing anything like it again. Right.
That's all. You did mention his buddy, his waiter friend. That's a good kill.
Yeah.
He's a classic. Like, again, we were talking about the radio things. That's exactly that kind of guy. Like, we've been on many adventures, Indy, and then like that is a radio explorer storytelling at its best.
I love that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think that's really great.
Also, I love how the popping of champagne hides the gunshot sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. And then you just see the glass broke, and he's just like, "Why is this?" And then you see the blood. It's such a good moment.
It is.
This film, the opening act of this film has one of my favorite jokes in the franchise, which is when Dan Aykroyd shows up in this film for 5 seconds. And he has this moment where they're like, and he's just like, Ben, did you not see Dan Aykroyd in this movie?
The British man who was on screen for a couple seconds, bringing Indy to like a boat or
to the plane.
Yeah,
that was Dan Aykroyd.
Yes.
Yeah,
I had.
That's fair. We don't get a close up. That's fair. You know what? I'll give you that.
Only in wide.
Yeah.
No.
But it's really funny because that moment is really funny to me because when he's like, and I'm sure most people, when he's just like, what does it say? See you later, Lao Shay.
Nice try, Lao Shay, and
closes the door.
It's a great bit.
It's a very funny moment. I really like that. I think this film often gets like, this is like seen as like the darker Indiana Jones, and it is like, no, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of levity to it. There's a lot of Spielberg's humor that comes through. Spielberg has a very specific humor that if you watch enough of his films, you definitely see.
I think this movie is it's not a better movie. I think this movie's funnier than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It is. It's funnier than Raiders.
I agree.
Yeah. It's funnier and darker at the exact same time.
Yeah.
It's doing both. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot more. And I think that comes out from the confidence that Spielberg and Lucas feel at this point. So Spielberg at this point had just come off of E.T. and he was hesitant to do this one, and Lucas was apparently really worried that he wouldn't direct this one. So they really pressured Spielberg to come back and do this one. And I think what's so interesting about it specifically is that you can tell that Spielberg is a much more confident director in this film than he was in Raiders. And it shows in every frame, I think, because especially in the editing, I think the editing is stronger, as Sparks mentioned, the editing in
it
Raiders.
is, which is really funny because it's the same guys.
Yeah, they learned.
Yeah, everyone just learned from the last one.
Same cinematographer, by the way. And I think still great cinematography in here.
Yeah.
Truly, I just think like
it's just less variety.
No, it's not even that. Like I think there was a tone. Like Raiders is chasing the tone of that silhouette and that shadow in light and a lot of bright orange with shadow, and like that is the aesthetic of Raiders. And this one is a little less caught in a single look that it's chasing, and I think that's fine. But it does make like Raiders really pop and stand out for what it's doing in a visual sense. And I think Temple of Doom still has very striking cinematography. It's just not doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think it's good it's not doing the same thing.
I love our bad guys. I love that it's just like human sacrifice. I love that he can actually put his whole hand through a human body. I think that's great. Kali Ma, I've had that. It's in my brain since I was like 10 years old. It's like Kali Ma, like it's been parodied to death. He looks great. I love that we get. It's another like British guy, like another white dude who turns out to be the evil guy.
I want to talk about the entire section of like the you want to bang me? No, you want to bang me.
Oh my god, that is. I love that scene. Thank you so much for bringing it up because I would have forgotten. I love that scene so much.
It's really funny. I think it's actually really funny. It's actually probably the most I like Willie in the movie. Yeah. I feel like she's, as a performer, the actor is the most in her bag in that scene, I think. And portraying what is being written the best.
I'll give him 5 minutes. I'll give her 4 minutes.
Yeah, right. I'll be the best you ever had. All that kind of stuff. Nocturnal studies, all that.
Oh my God, nocturnal studies.
All that jazz is so fun.
Yeah.
And it leads into a incredible assassin reveal where the dude literally appears from the wall to kill Indy
every single time.
It's so good. And the whole sequence of her coming out and screaming at him that like you just missed out on the best you'd have ever had, Indy, and he's like
he's dying.
This is when I slipped through your fingers. So funny. So well executed on every little bit of what they're doing, all the way up to when he does come into her room and she's like, I'm right here, Indy, take me, Indy. And he's not focused on that at all anymore because now he's looking for other shit going on, and it leads into him groping the statue bit and her being offended about it, pushing it in, getting the clues, finding it. Really just top-notch stuff, I think, the whole way through. One of the best parts of the movie is that whole sequence end to end.
That assassin reveal really is like maybe one of the best like dude comes from the shadows of all time.
God,
I love it.
I agree with that. I mean, I completely forgot about it, and when I was watching it last night, when he just pops out of nowhere, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, he looks like he's painted on that wall, and then he isn't anymore.
He does. That is such a great scene. Even you were talking about Sparks, and I have to agree. I love that scene. I love the comedy of it all, where things are getting hot and heavy, and then he just says, "Oh, I'll tell you in the morning." And she's like, "I'm not like easy." He's like, "I'm not easy either." Then they're just sitting in each other's room, thinking.
She's just like waiting for him on the bed.
I feel like that's something you see out of a high school comedy, maybe, or it's. What?
That is such a good point, Ben. Like Indy is so much more of like not like but like a young flirt in this movie.
Yes.
With like Marion, who's an
Yeah.
adult. With this, he gets to be. This is I messed up. This is the scene where he's like kiss here. Isn't that in the
No, that's in Raiders.
Oh, okay, never mind. Dang. Then never mind. Forget that point.
But he's in this like it is more
like bubbly.
the nocturnal stuff. Like he is getting closer to Han Solo in this scene than I think he ever does any other point in the Indiana Jones franchise, doing the like, well, I'm not easy either, sweetheart, like all that kind of stuff. Like we're riding into the Han Solo territory a little bit, but like he's also having fun.
Yeah.
What I noticed about the scene is actually that he's kind of using his dorkiness, right?
That's how it starts. Thank you, Brandon, because like also again, I want you to finish what you're saying, but like we do get a little bit more of the professor in this movie, and it is like nice when it's with like the Maharaja and he's pulling out the like, but it's like now it's like he's Bruce Wayning in. Because like he's really trying to suss out the information about what they did to the village.
The Maharaja, the little man.
Because he's using his like being recognized as a professor to get in there and like I need to learn some questions. And he's like I'm speaking purely theoretically and historically.
Yeah, and I think and when in that scene with Willie, what even I like about that sequence is that he's able to use his he knows he's a sexy nerd.
Yeah.
And he's bringing that kind of nerdiness to flirt with Willie, and I really appreciate whenever Indiana Jones lets himself just be a dork.
Right.
Bring it sexy back. Yeah. Sorry.
No, he's not bringing it back. He always had it.
It's true. He always had it.
Something I find particularly special about Temple of Doom is the like call to action motivation for this story, because it's not even necessarily about the stone. It's about what it really becomes about, and what I think is like accentuated really well at the beginning of the movie.
What people believe?
No. That they took the kids.
Oh, the kids, right? Yeah.
When he finds out they took all the children.
That's right.
And that really pisses him off. Yeah. And when you get like the kid coming back like starved and falling in his arms and all that, like Indy's activated to want to.
Good word.
Thanks. He wants to save these kids. He's really pissed off that on top of everything else, they took all these children.
Yeah.
And that these people are suffering because of it. And I think that it does unlock this extra facet of Indiana Jones. Like again, this is this more caring person. This is where I feel like his more altruistic, moralistic side is present. It makes me think of him in a particular way.
Yes, because unlike Raiders, where he's like, yes, stopping Nazis is bad, but like he's not out to save anyone. He's out to like get an object. Here, he has an actual goal of like, oh, I'm here to get these rocks. Oh, I'm saving hundreds of children. That is an actual goal. Screw this museum shit. I'm actually saving lives. This is like, I activation.
Right. And like, again, and like, I don't want the stone to take back somewhere else. Yeah. I could.
Yeah. If he still needs, obviously he's still going to get the stone.
If he had more than one, he would.
Sure.
But if he only gets one, it goes back to the village and the kids go home.
Yeah.
So what's so interesting about that is that I think Indy's arc in this film is great, honestly. You know, there's a lot of talk about fortune and glory, and there's a lot of talk of why do you get into it, fortune and glory, or what do you get out of it, fortune and glory. You know, that's kind of this through line of it. And at the end, Willie says, well, "What about your fortune and glory?" It's like, he just kind of brushes it off because that's not what it's about anymore. And that makes this film a really interesting prequel, because we're seeing that kind of Indiana Jones care more about preserving rather than taking. Whereas in the beginning of here, he's just kind of looking to get rich. He obviously he's still working as a professor. He still probably is talking to Marcus about the museum, but he's more interested in kind of what that will cost and how that will be rewarding to him. Yes. And here and as the movie progresses, we see him move into where we see him in Raiders, where he primarily just cares about preserving the history that he's saving these artifacts for.
I really wish, I don't mind this as a prequel. I wish this were a couple years more in the past, because I think him being more like grizzled, a little meaner, almost like the Mandalorian arc, where like he will fake pretend to hurt somebody. He won't actually do it, but like I like that arc. And if this were like 3 years ago instead of just one, I would buy him being a little more of a scumbag a lot more. That's just like I like the idea of him like sanding off the rough edges in a prequel. I just wish I had a little more time, further removed from Raiders.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
And it wouldn't take much to change, right? You just change the date at the beginning. That's really all you got to do.
Well, I think. Go ahead, Ben. I wanted you to say what you said.
I remember what my point was. I also want to say about how this movie does really show how selfless. He's not selfish. He's selfless. Indy can be, and Indy is, because he mentions about how the three stones, according to legend, they get close together, the diamonds start showing, and of course, Willie perks up. She's like, diamonds, jewels, what? But because it's Indiana Jones, he's like, we need to get this. We need one stone. I like to have three, but we just need to get the one stone, even though there's a priceless diamond in it. And at the beginning of the movie, he was trying to get a priceless diamond. He gives it back to the village where it rightfully belongs. Even though Willie's saying, oh, it's just a rock, it's just this. But he's like, no, this is a very important piece of their culture. And even when he's trying to tell the village elder that Shiva didn't bring us down, our plane crashed, and he's like, nope, Shiva did that. And he's like, I'm not going to argue with you, but I am going to help you. And to me, that just proves how, even though Indiana Jones can be a bit of a scumbag, he is a hero. He is willing to help, and he is willing to put his own fortune and glory to the side to make sure other people get what they need.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, and it happens in the same scene where he's learning about the taking of the stone, and he knows the value of the stone. He knows how important these stones are. There's fortune and glory in him retrieving it. If he can bring one back, that's great. In the same scene, at the very end, he gets told they took the children, and it changes him even. Then we get this focus shot on him where he's telling Willie that that's what they just said. And it's not a mistake that becomes a primary focus of children were taken in this situation. And also Indy has a child he has rescued with him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those are two important factors of who Indiana Jones is in this movie.
Right. So what you're talking about is, so I brought up the idea that Indiana Jones is not, is kind of incidental to the quest of the Ark in the first film. It was interesting about that, and the only interesting thing that I feel about that argument is in regards to Temple of Doom, because this is the only movie where this movie does not have the same outcome if Indiana Jones isn't a part of it.
Sure,
this is the movie where he specifically changes the outcome of this story because he is a part of it, and I find that so fascinating that is the case. Because you're right, that kind of activation of just now using that word, that he wants to save these kids. It's really important to him that whatever happens to the stones, it doesn't matter. I have to save those kids. And he even has that moment with Short Round at the top of the mountain, right? Right. Where he's talking about where Short Round's so here's what this kid happened, and he has this moment where is that call to action. Indy is trying to avoid the call to action even in that moment, and then after Short Round is finished telling him the story of what this kid went through, he's like, I got to do it. No choice.
Right, and there's also an amount of Indiana Jones knowing enough about the way the world is at this time, where because the castle is corrupted, and the castle is saying this isn't happening. That's all anyone else in the other outside of the world is going to hear. Yeah. He wouldn't have heard of it if the ship hadn't crashed, the plane hadn't crashed. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and he never would have been there. But he's there.
Again, that's a fun serial thing of I crash landed. It's a Doctor Who thing. It's serialized storytelling of I crash landed in this place. They have a problem. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to leave the place. That's the story.
Right. Yeah. But this isn't one of those things where he's being recruited to a mission or someone needs something specific found because of XYZ. This is something where Jones outside of falling into this situation wouldn't have been brought into it. Yeah. And he knows it. And he knows that if it goes on, he's not going to hear about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just got to stop it. We haven't talked about the minecart, one of the greatest sequences ever put to film. This Excellent. Was originally going to be in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And they were like, no room for it. Take it out of the script. And it's incredible. It still looks good today on 4K. You can tell some of those people are dolls. I don't care. It looks incredible.
Still looks great.
I don't care either. I want to put the Donkey Kong song behind it.
Oh, the entire time I'm like, man, DK.
Yeah, that level sucks in that game, but
the minecart sequence is excellent. So excellent. Every moment about it. I love the use of miniatures also. I know you brought it up briefly. When you know you can tell they're dolls, but when you don't, it's so quick that because they're using the miniatures, specifically the doll miniatures, so smartly that when they're in the edit, you don't quite catch them. They're used so sparingly but effectively to give you the scale.
Brandon, I'm happy to report, even in 4K, beautiful on a 4K television, all that stuff, like you still can't, like, it doesn't ruin it.
Not at all.
No. I actually completely forgot about the minecart scene when I was watching it last night. And because when we got to the scene in the temple with Kalima, where Short Round tells Indy that he's like, "You're my best friend, I love you, dude," and breaks the spell. And I actually thought Indy even got his own heart ripped out of his chest. That's only one time. Because it's been so long, I've been misremembering scenes, and I was like, "Wow, is this movie like really this short? It feels like we've only been here for like maybe an hour 15." And then the minecart scene happens. I'm like, "Oh, yo, this scene is rad."
Yeah,
It was intense. It was suspenseful. You love watching it, how they're able to twist and turn, and how Indy was able to use the stuff around him to cause problems for the carts behind him. And when of course the famous time, every time there's a minecart scene, the brake breaks, excuse the pun, and he has to stop it, and he's like, "Ow, my foot's on fire."
I love that. Water.
Yeah, it's so funny.
His feet would be destroyed. I love movies.
His shoes would be gone.
There's so many things about the Indiana Jones franchise that's so fascinating, because like they break physics frequently. Like when they fell out of the plane on this boat and then went through an entire mountain sequence and then into the water and waterfall, they'd be dead. Like there's no two ways about it. They'd be dead.
I remembered all that stuff that happens when they fly in the floaty boat. I didn't remember the waterfall. I'm like, oh, this is that's a lot. There's a lot happening. I love it.
When the raft just flies off the edge and they land in the river, I'm like, oh, they're so dead. They're so dead. But of course,
I mean, but because this is not just a movie; it's an Indiana Jones movie, and you can break those you can stretch those kind of limits.
At one point, Willie is dangled over the lava at the same distance that the other guy was when he burst into flames.
Yeah.
And then she drops further.
That's plot armor, baby.
Not only that, she must have scored really high to her heat resistance rolls.
I really like the saving the children scene when they're all saving the children, and when Indiana Jones is fighting on the conveyor belt. I think that's an awesome hand-to-hand combat scene. And then when it has the parallel that Sparks talked about with Short Round fighting the mini Maharaja and Indy fighting the bigger guy. I think that's awesome filmmaking. I think that sequence is awesome.
I love the voodoo.
You know what? Yeah, the voodoo's good. But Indy doesn't believe in magic, guys.
True, all of it.
Something that stands out to me. This is true of both of these films. Damn, extras are important.
Yep.
Like crowds are important. They make a thing feel very full of life. And AI can't replicate it. CGI can't replicate it. It feels so full of life, and even though we don't spend any time with a lot of these kids, you see they all matter. Oh yeah, because they are real people, and there's no scene that makes me feel the joy of them being released more than when they storm out through the castle and they come across the Maharaja's table, just kicking the plates everywhere and being smiling and happy and everything. And I'm like, I feel this. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I agree. It is. There's also the bit when they're towards the end of that sequence when they're outside of the castle and they hold up their hands because they've been underground for so long and they can't deal with the brightness, but they keep running. Great moment.
Yeah.
I do have one question though.
Yeah.
When Indy is fighting at the shrine of Kalima after he breaks the spell and all the cultists are on the other side of the chasm and they cheer, were they under a spell?
Can I tell you 100%? This is a problem in Raiders of the Lost Ark 2, is that I'm not always sure who the crowd is on the side of.
Yeah.
Because intermittently, it's like all of them seem to be with the Germans, and then later in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're all against the Germans and hiding Indy, and like, I don't know, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
They're all cheering him on when he goes riding on the horse, or they're all chasing after him, not clear. And here in Temple of Doom, like,
I think that the fervor of the event they've all awoken from their blood zombie mode. They're all cheering Indy on. That's what my heart tells me. But the film does not actually tell me what it is.
No, because there's a shot of where the cultists are about to do something bad, and the entire crowd is like, "Yeah!" And then
I can help you out real quick here. Think of them all as background characters in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
They are just here to see who falls in the lava.
Yes, it's true.
Okay.
The original background screen.
But you're right. It's not clear. Both of those films have a lot of extras who, like, their association with our main characters is not evident.
I mean, to validate your point on having extras, you're 100% correct. Having actual real people on screen doing so many things does bring an impact. Like you were talking about the kids when they're running on the table. Love it. It's just that when you said that brought me back because I looked over to Fanny and my fiance. I was like, are they cheering?
We talked about it too.
No, yeah.
It was just one of those moments. It's one of the okay. So thankfully, it doesn't ruin the movie. It's just one of those moments where you look at the person you're watching this with and go, "What's going on here?" And you think about it for a little bit, but then you stop and you start and you continue watching the film. Which the sequence after that still fantastic.
Where this movie has value for me is once again just to bring up what I talked about at the beginning of this discussion, which is that. Short Round and Indiana's relationship is incredible, and it always has been. I've always adored it, and Ryan, I believe, brought it up already, but it bears repeating. The moment where Short Round gets Indy, snaps Indy out of it, and by burning him and saying, "Indy, I love you," and it's such a powerful moment, and you really feel. And you really feel that because up until this moment, they have so successfully built up Indiana and Short Round's relationship, and to have that moment pay it off is truly special and incredible. I think.
Yeah. And I think Willie clearly is not like a Marion. Like she's not gonna. Her and Indy would not last. Right, they would have a fling like this, like they'd have a summer romance, and then Indy would go off, and she'd be like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going over here." And he's like, "Oh, but I'm doing singing over here. You don't want to see me sing?"
Well, she even says at the end, like she wants nothing to do with his bullshit.
Yeah. So like, this is totally again like a James Bondy thing of like, yeah, we had 2 weeks that were really hot, and then I'll see you later.
Now that said, everything I said about Willie stands. I've not changed my mind, but that whip move at the end is sexy as hell.
Sure.
Yeah, that is a pretty good move.
That is damn sexy.
We need to talk about the most important gag that I forgot happened in this movie, and that you also forgot, which is when Mola Ram rolls away through a trap door from Indiana Jones at the shrine, and he goes,
yeah, it is.
He rolls out through a trap door and disappears.
It's
I forgot that happened.
Yeah, it's specifically funny because it's not a giant trapdoor. It is a human-sized trapdoor that you have to be laying down to perfectly fall through. So this dude has been planning this moment his entire life. Where he's like, finally, my trapdoor.
He's genuinely laughing out of joy that he finally gets to use this trapdoor.
That was so funny.
I would be willing to bet that when that actor was laughing, he wasn't laughing about his like in character. He's like that was him laughing because he's like, I get to use the trapdoor. This is awesome.
So, yes, incredible comedy, and I don't mean to yuck anybody's yum, but the villains don't work for me in this movie.
Sure.
I don't find them as compelling as say Belloc.
Well, because like everybody's just brain controlled people except for Mola Ram.
Yeah.
Right. And so when he comes into the movie, I feel like it's kind of too late.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was actually going to completely agree with you because Raiders of the Lost Ark, in Bullock and in the Nazis, you have these villains or these group of villains that you are constantly running or trying to get away from or trying to think 2 steps ahead. Whereas the head cultist just shows up and he's there for the rest of the movie. And I'm like,
And no, that's not to say, by the way, I don't love what he's doing. I think that performance is very fun, and Kali Ma is iconic. I think he looks great, and as Marc said, that comedy moment is incredible. But I think he shows up too late in the movie, and because of that, he just kind of falls a little flat for me.
I don't agree with that, because I think if he showed up any earlier, it would just drag the movie, because he wouldn't be more complex or any more rich by being in the movie earlier. He would be the same. There wouldn't be any new. And the reason I say that is because it's not just based on like the script for this film. It's based on like, he is, for better or worse, completely lifted from like 20s radio serial. I went to an exotic place and here's the voodoo cult leader. He is that to a 100% T. Like, there is no more depth to him than that. He is that guy. And like, cool. Like, you know, you're doing a send up of those particular stories. You want to do this guy 100%. This is that guy 100%. He's not any more complex than that.
I'm going to agree with you. I do like the villain, but I do agree. Like, again, like he doesn't have as much screen time or as much development as our Nazi villains. But like at the same time, I think this movie was specifically not trying to do anything that the first movie did.
Sure. Sure, and I'll concede that as well. But the thing that kind of doesn't necessarily work for me isn't just that he shows up too late in the movie. Is that there's really nothing more to him, as Marc was saying. That's kind of a flaw for me, not a feature. And I kind of feel like if maybe we, you know, because we kind of have this passing of the villains when we first meet the Maharajas. And this is just kind of how I read the movie, but when we first meet the Maharaja guy, not the Maharaja himself, but the guy who's
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
If that was revealed to be Mala Ram, I feel like that's a better kind of villain for us to kind of like hang on to. But because because we get that character and then he disappears until way later in the movie, and then we have Mala Ram from then on. It just kind of doesn't quite jive for me.
Yeah, I 100% hear that, and I do think it doesn't bother me, but I do think that British guy who we are first introduced to, who is a cult member way later on, I do think he needs to be in the movie more for that to kind of matter. But again, like, for me, like the villains, like this is more about like. Not that the first movie is about the Nazis, but they are more characters. This movie, we have more of a hero cast than a villain cast because we're focusing more on our heroes. So we don't want to spend way more time on these villains because they're just cockamamie, silly villains. If we spend more time with Mola Ram, that dude's just cackling a lot. I don't need more of him personally. So like,
he's a Scooby-Doo villain.
I do think we need more of the British guy whose name I don't even know. But
Chowder Lal. And so he's not the British guy. He is Indian. He's the guy criticizing the British guy that's there.
Got it. Sorry.
But like he's not Indian in casting. But he's the Indian guy.
Okay, so I'm not totally off.
So like, but Chowder Lal, he. I agree with.
He's weaker than.
I agree with you in the sense like when he's introduced, he's kind of like playing mind chess with Indy. And playing with his Bruce Wayning professor bit where he's trying to get information, and it does make it like kind of weaker that later Chowder Lal is just revealed to be another ooze dripped cultist guy, working under Mola Ram. And I agree with Brandon that either he could have been revealed as Mola Ram or he could have been his own Belloc, and Mola Ram could have remained as like pretty much as developed as he is, which is pretty much the same amount of development that our black cloaked Nazi guy gets in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
right. And he could just be that guy.
He could be the second guy instead of like the main guy.
Right. Yeah, that's all.
The guy who's like scary and intimidating, but not the guy who's like doing the mind shit with Indy.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
I have one other note, which is just a specific comedy beat. The way that they do Willie hanging up the drying clothes, and she's picking up a piece and she's drying it. She's picking up a piece and she's drying it. She picks up a vampire bat and it screams at her. Yeah. It's very, very funny.
I really like, that whole sequence of her discovering more and more animals. I love in the opening sequence, like just the meal that she's getting keeps getting worse and worse before it's just monkey brains. Like, I think Willie's.
That snake dish?
her reactions are I think are
Ryan and I had to talk about this while we were watching it, which is like I'm like I concede to you that like they're supposed to be the bad guys, and I'm like I get it. So the bad guys eat a bunch of gross stuff. I get it, but I'm like we could have put like a couple of actual Indian dishes on the table here, guys. We didn't have to make it all look like their exoticism is absolutely disgusting, and this is what all Indian people eat all the time. Is just like heinous shit, because that's just not accurate.
Yeah,
I'm just even when I was watching, I was like, can we please have some curry? Please.
Just one good curry plate being passed around the table amongst the rest of this would have been nice.
Just one good curry plate, or even some tikka masala with jasmine rice. Is that too much to ask?
Can I real quickly, like what's so interesting to me about that sequence is that we have it's almost like we have two movies playing out at one time, right? Sure. We've got Indiana Jones playing his mind chess game with the other guy, and then we have the British colonel is in that movie, and then we have the rest of the table in a completely different movie, which is the slapstick comedy. Look how funny foreign food is that we can't eat it, and I think a lot of the comedy
complete with the guy sitting across who's like, you don't like chilled monkey brains.
And I wonder. So I have this time I was watching this, I was like, where did those guys come from?
That's the Shadow Council.
Where did those guys come from, and where do they go after the dinner? Are they part of the cult?
Adventure.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Another thing that struck me in this one is I'm like, why is the British colonel even here?
to do the end, to save them in the end.
Yeah.
Well, like, and like it's nice for like the colonial like acknowledgement of its thing in India, but he's also like put in the position where like he's the heroic guy again, and it's not like nothing Chowder Lal says about the British in that scene is wrong.
No.
But it's like it's being given to us like it's the bad guy perspective, and I'm like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah,
like
the worst guy is making some good points.
Yeah, like nothing here is wrong.
Yeah, watching this movie, I was reminded of what little world history I know between India and England. I was like, yeah, the British were there for a very long time.
So he's really only there to save Indiana at the end of the movie, right. And I want to say two things real quickly that I completely forgot to speak on, which is I think the final fight sequence, the final action sequence with the bridge and all that, it's all really good. I really like that sequence a lot.
I think just because you brought it up, like the whole final sequence, essentially of like wrapping up the story with the bad guys, the showdown sequence, I do kind of like that more than just the end of Raiders. I like the end of Raiders for what it is, but it does feel like Raiders kind of like slows itself down into a thoughtful ending, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do kind of like getting the full-blown action adventure ending here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing is this film won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, and it deserves it because the VFX in this movie looked awesome.
Oh, sure. We didn't talk about Raiders, which won a bunch of Oscars. Oh, yeah. One of the only genre movies, like every couple of years we get one of these, like Lord of the Rings and Avatar. Like it was nominated for everything, and it won all the technicals and like Best Director, but no actor got nominated.
And again, Temple of Doom, another incredible John Williams score, but that's true of all the indie films, I assume.
Yeah. There's a moment in the score. Since you brought it up, I was actually not going to do this, but there's a moment in the score that sounded exactly like it was the chanting, and it sounded exactly like I think the Phantom Menace Duel of the Fates, or the Revenge of the Sith.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brandon, we'll revisit it in a couple months.
Do you know how many times I'm going to watch these damn movies in the next couple of months?
At least 4.
Anyway, yeah, that's all I got. Anything else?
I'm just glad everyone here enjoys it on some capacity, because again, like growing up, like I remember like this being like the ugly stepchild, and I'm like, I like dark shit, so like I think it's cool.
I am also really glad my mood has definitely kind of changed on Temple of Doom, because like Brian said, for the longest time I was very anti Temple of Doom. I would watch Raiders or I watch Last Crusade, and I never really want to watch Temple of Doom because when I first saw it, I mean, I will admit I was younger, and also the movie kind of bored me in some parts. I thought the movie dragged. Rewatching it again, it does not drag. It is a very fun film. It is very dark, but also I like it. I like it a lot. It's still unfortunately just years of Raiders and Last Crusade just, living in my head rent free and just saying these are really great adventure films. It's not my favorite, but I will still put it in high regard as like, yeah, if you're going to watch Indiana Jones or if you're going to watch the Indiana Jones films, definitely take the time and put on Temple of Doom. It really is worth your time.
It's not the worst.
Rank it.
It's not the worst. I would say 8. 8 out of 10.
8, wow.
Yeah,
right.
It's up there.
9.
I also say 9.
I will say 7. Okay, so that's that, everyone. So that's the first 2 Indiana Jones films, and we have 2 more to go before the Dial of Destiny comes out. The second 2, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, will be in a couple of weeks, tentatively on an episode. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys posted, obviously.
And then it'll be its own cinephile. So if you don't, however you're going to engage with it, it'll be there.
Yeah. And around that time, also stay tuned for Mission Impossible episodes. We're going to be going through the Mission Impossible franchise once again.
We've got a lot of movies to watch.
Yeah,
once again because
they're like these are all good. We're all watching good shit, so it's okay.
But that'll do it for the first 2 Indiana Jones films, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Real quick, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's all I'm gonna say. It says Raiders of the Lost Ark. It will always in my brain forever. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark. The next one is Indiana Jones and the Temple.
Do you feel the same way about episode 4?
In my heart, I do.
Okay,
but that
ship has sailed.
That shit, I'm on episode 9. I can't do anything about that one.
I much for the same reason why it stars episode 4. It's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark in my heart.
Yeah. I get it.
You know what? In my heart, Kalima. I said in my heart, Kalima.
That's so true.
All right, so that's everyone. I'm protecting my heart. I'm sorry.
I got 2, like I'm Doctor Who.
So that'll do it, everyone. So stay tuned for a bunch of those franchise discussions, and as well as the next 2 Indiana Jones films. Until then, of course, you can check out all sorts of cool stuff from this show. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, find us on all the Fake Nerd Podcast social medias. We have plenty of shows you can check. Oh, are you okay?
Leave me alone.
You can check out all sorts of shows on this channel. If you like this video, subscribe to this channel. You can check out there's Fake Nerds Watch. Fake Nerds Watch is a show where we do a bunch of TV shows. Currently, we're going through Star Trek Picard season 3 and Star Wars: The Mandalorian season 3.
Both the Star shows.
Stay tuned for more of those. Then there's Basement Arcade, which is a video game series. Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which is a video game discussion series. New episodes are out now. You can check out quarterly and stuff like that. However, whenever this comes out, this could be out. This also could be outdated. A little bit. And then you can also check out there's the shows we have: Animation Station, Fake Nerd Book Club, and our new show, which we mentioned at the show, The Real Score. If you guys like Indiana Jones, there's plenty more Indiana Jones content coming to the Fake Nerd Podcast channel, including on The Real Score, where we're going to be discussing the Indiana Jones films with our friend Jeremy Bellucci.
Yeah, real quick, at the time that this is out, so is our Mask of Zorro Real Score. So please go check that out. And next is King Kong. 1933.
I love Peter Jackson.
And then Indy, and it's Indy for 3 months straight. So get ready for Indiana Jones.
Guys, I love Indiana Jones, and I'm so happy to be doing Indiana Jones episodes on almost every single one of our shows.
Man, you all should have scheduled those things closer together so you didn't have to rewatch them so close together.
I'll tell you real quick. We deliberated this for a long time, and the reason the Indiana Jones episodes are where they are is because we needed to put the Dial of Destiny episode 1 month past the release of the film. So we had enough time to actually consume it and think about it.
Got it. Understandable.
Yeah. And we didn't want to spread them out too far. We wanted them all to be in.
No, I get it. You don't want to spread them out. You don't want to spread them. I get it.
Just real quick, because I'll plug it, because we're talking about Real Score. I do know that part of the reason that we're doing it that way is because Jeremy came at it with, I think, a very right-minded concept where we're talking about the trilogy in a single episode because John Williams was at a point in his career where all his music he was working with the same conductor. So his music sounds a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's obviously a lot of time later, and he is with a different conductor. It is a different era of his music, so there's a different sound to it. And we're kind of assuming the same is going to be true for Dial of Destiny, though we don't actually know that yet.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Lots more of that discussion will be coming there, as well as other things that I really hope come to fruition. My series Conversation is probably out at this point, right? Right, first episode is that out by this point.
Should be.
So you can check out. That's only audio. Sorry. You can check out my first episode with Karis Lunn, the Journey into Fandom podcast. Really good discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, that's all those things. Of course, you can check out the Fake Nerd podcast, guys. You can never forget the Fake Nerd podcast. It is the show where everything comes from. It is our mothership show. This last episode we talked about Renfield, probably. No. This last episode we talked about Evil Dead Rise, probably. So Renfield, Evil Dead Rise, all of those are there. And there's I don't know what's next, but stay tuned for whatever that is.
We're going to be talking about insert title here.
Yes. And I can't wait for insert title here. So of course, like this video, subscribe to this channel, find us on all the social medias at Fake Nerd Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. FakeNerdPodcast.com if you'd like to get support us financially. It's on the Patreon and it's on the TeePublic, which are linked below, as well as on our website. By the way, probably at this time there's still some trouble with the website. I am still working on it. It's going to be a long fix though, but it is up. It is there for people to find it. And if you'd like to get in touch with us personally, hey, I'm a BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for CBR.com, KaijuRamenMedia.com. Latest issue is out of Kaiju Ramen magazine, where it's Big King Kong episode. Big King Kong issue. I have an article in there. Check it out, please. And I also write for AtomicGeekdom.com, where I've got a few places that you can check out. And where can people find you?
Well, you could find me possibly buying a new Indiana Jones hat if I ever go back to Disneyland at BenMag27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And you can also find me writing for Fusion Gaming Magazine, Old School Gamer Magazine, GoNintendo.com, as well as playing Mary Frankenstein on the D and Dark podcast.
Sparks?
You can find me wondering, at this point, wouldn't you rather just buy yourself a really nice fedora that like really looks like the real thing rather than a Disneyland Parks one? At Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan?
You could find me scratching my beard, contemplating the weight of some golden idol that I'll definitely get wrong at DJ Tony Snark 616.
All right, guys. Once again, like this video, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to us on all the audio feeds you find us. And until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds.
Watch.